Hi. Hi, Mom.
Hey guys, welcome in. Hey Jim, hey Kaz.
Hi.
How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you?
Good.
Good. Welcome to our channel.
You know, I had to laugh a little bit because the station and the program opens with "sit back and relax." You've seen me on any other channel, there is going to be nothing relaxing about this at all, guys. So hopefully people aren't misled by what's out there on your intro.
We're prepared.
It's all good.
So he wants us to start off with a clip that he's going to show. So let's go ahead and start off with the clip that Jim sent us.
Screen, guys, and
hey everyone.
I'll
tell you what, Jim, you definitely brought a crowd.
You did. Okay, folks. Got it all primed and ready to go. I'll go full screen so everybody can see it. Okay, here we go.
Is back home with her family in Taylor tonight, but now police are trying to determine who, if anyone, could face charges in connection to the staged kidnapping.
7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig talked to the private investigator who helped get Gloria back home.
James Terry is a private eye all the way in Mississippi, and yesterday he was able to convince 2 women to go get Gloria Alvarado and bring her here to this Walmart where plainclothes police were waiting.
I am not your typical private investigator. I don't have a law enforcement background. My background is professional football.
But along with Taylor Police Detective Andrew Snavely, this private investigator was able to help unravel the mystery of what happened to 15-year-old Gloria Alvarado. And it started with talking to Gloria's friends.
Because these children and these parents were either African Americans or Puerto Ricans or minorities in the inner city, they did not want to go to the police. They had seen some of my background as a football player in college at a historically black college, so they gave me a shot as well. They started opening up to me.
Gloria's parents hired James Terry of Gulf Coast Investigation to find her. He says the vehicle caught on surveillance video was an Uber or a Lyft, and inside was a 17-year-old boy Gloria told friends was her boyfriend.
Talked to her at the window, waited till the coast was clear, cut the window, helped her down, walked to the end of the street, called a second Uber or Lyft, which then took him to his great-grandmother's house and an address that I started calling neighbors on that said that they had seen the girl there.
James Terry says he was finally able to get relatives of the teenage boy allegedly involved in Gloria's staged kidnapping to locate her and bring her to men he said he was working with.
They called me on the way, and she was in the car, and I said, before we do anything else, I need to talk to her.
The women put Gloria on the phone, and this private eye was able to get her to confirm things like her birthmarks.
I knew some things that were in her bedroom based on your videos of your station, and I asked her those questions, and I knew at that point it was her. I said, do you need anything when you get to Walmart and Taylor? She said, no, but I'm scared.
Sergeant Frank Cannon was in street clothes at the Walmart waiting to see Gloria.
When I turned the corner and saw her standing there, it was a sigh of relief. I was a little emotional. You know, I have a 15-year-old at home.
I'm just like lost for words, but I'm happy that she's back.
I spoke to Tina Alvarado on the phone today, and she and her husband are, of course, so relieved that their daughter is safe and back at home, even though she says right now Gloria is not speaking to them. In Taylor, Kimberly Craig, 7 Action News.
All right, let me say something real quick. I want to welcome everyone in, everyone new, everyone. The first time you guys were rude to Jim, because I want to hear what he knows, and Kaz and I are out to find the facts. The first time you're rude, there's no timeout, there's no this, just mods, get rid of them. I'm not doing the bullshit on the channel. It's just not happening. We don't do it on a normal basis, and we're not doing it tonight.
Let me interrupt you real quick. If you want to, I don't have a problem with it.
No.
I mean, I don't want people out there thinking that they're not allowed to challenge me or question me. I'm as thick-skinned as it comes, and there is no question out of bounds with me. But if you guys feel more comfortable with that, that's your call. I don't want anybody thinking that
well, challenging you, Jim, is one thing. But just coming off with a straight-out rude comment, then it's just, I'm not going to do the bullshit.
Well, those are probably my family members.
Oh, I love him. Okay, so Kaz.
Yes, Mom.
Where should we start with Jim? Jim, I want to know from the beginning how you were brought into the case. I want to know everything. Your thoughts on Aiden, about the 40-year-old man that you're talking about that was found out there with no shoes on, the water thing, the no shoes. I want to hear everything.
But Jim, before you start off there is speculation out there that's flying around, and I'd like you to address this first. There's people out there saying that you are no longer a registered PI. Can you address that question for us, please?
No longer a registered PI?
Yes.
I'd like to know where they get that information from, what state they're talking about.
Yeah.
Let me explain real quick my background in this, okay?
Thank you.
My legal name is James Michael Terry. Most people know me as Jim Terry. I have a lengthy football career. In fact, other than Tom Brady, I'm the longest running pro football player in the country right now, but I play in a sport and in a league called arena and indoor football. So even at the advanced age of 45 as a place kicker, I kicked in college. That was my main job. About 6-7 years ago, some of the guys I played football with were bounty hunters. They were skip tracers, dog the bounty hunter type stuff. And they thought that I'd be pretty good at this. Now, I know I don't look it, but I'm 6'3", almost 230 pounds. I'm not as small as I look here. And as a place kicker, you always think they're smaller. I've also had some amateur cage fights, and I've been involved in athletics my whole life. They thought it would be a good idea if I could join them as a bounty hunter. A lot of the guys that are skip tracers and bounty hunters that I played football with that did this as a second job. I was a school teacher when I first got out of college. I was an elementary school teacher for about 9 months. My degree was in education and Black history. If you look at my college football career, and I won't stay on this long, just so people know that I'm not a racist or homophobe, and even if they call me that, it doesn't matter. I was the only white student out of 17,000 where I played college football. The only Caucasian student. I never had a white teammate, never had a white teacher, and I never had a white classmate at Clark Atlanta University. That's why I was so invested and get so many cases involving minorities, Puerto Ricans, African Americans, you name it. And that's one of my specialties. So years ago, guys were becoming bounty hunters that I was playing football with. I was getting older. I didn't know how much longer I could play, and I was making 6 figures playing arena football at the time. So I looked into it. But I just didn't want to chase sex offenders into New York City for $1,500 and get shot at. A lot of my buddies weren't able to have a conceal and carry permit. I've never been a registered felon or anything like that, so I was able to carry a gun, which is why they wanted me to do it. So I started looking at private investigating in only the aspect of missing persons cases. My mom was retiring as a school teacher in Central Florida. I grew up in Clearwater Beach. And she says, I'll tell you what. If you go to private investigating school at Hillsborough Community College in Tampa, Florida, I'll go back to night school with you and we'll take the courses together and we'll be a PI. What they never told you in the case. So I went back to college. I went back to school with my mother. My mother was almost 70 years old, and we were sitting in class together with all these gorillas and all these, knuckleheads and ex-cops and 95% of private investigators are shitheads. I get that, and you could throw me into that list if you want, especially when you talk to a cop. But I'll wrap the story up with this. My mom and I went through the courses. We were ready to graduate the courses in the state of Florida, and this is going to answer your question. And they said, okay, great. And I had questions like, how do you open a business? What do you charge per hour? What if you only want to have a website and do one case at a time? And the guy, the professor who was an FBI agent says, whoa. In the state of Florida, after you complete your courses in this college, after we had gone, this is the final night of the class, he says, you have to be an understudy for somebody in the state of Florida for 2 years before you can become a licensed private investigator in the state of Florida. So you have an intern license and you have to work. Well, I'm making $100,000 a year playing arena football for 3 months. I can't call off games. I'm in my late 30s. The games are on ESPN. I'm not going to call that off. Been doing it for decades. So what I did was I found a state, took the education that didn't have the same requirements. So my education as an intern in the state of Florida, an intern license, was achieved almost 6 years ago. That intern license is good for 4 years. But within days of graduating the school, I just opened up a business license in the state of Mississippi and became a licensed private investigator with the education in Florida. So my intern license, I'm sure, because I've never worked a case in the state of Florida, has since dissolved. So if people are looking at me because of my phone number in the state of Florida, they're 100% correct. But I'm a licensed private investigator out of Biloxi, Mississippi. There are currently 6 states that you do not need to have any education or any sort of background other than a business license to be a PI. You in Australia, you in Delaware, you in Maine, you in California can be a licensed private investigator. Even O.J. Simpson can in Idaho, Colorado, South Dakota, Wyoming, Alaska.
I love Biloxi. It's a great town.
And Colorado is the 6 states you could be a licensed PI in right now, which is why I took this case out of Idaho. So if people are telling you that my license in Florida is expired, I was never a PI there. I only went to school there, and they're looking me up on the registry. If they look at my business license, Gulf Coast Investigation, I'm good for the next 7 years, ladies. And unfortunately, those are semantics that I just don't argue on Facebook.
Thank you very much for that clarification, because I had heard it on the grapevine and I knew you'd be able to explain it. I thank you for doing that.
You know, I think a lot of people, you know, are like with Jim, I think they just don't like how blunt he is. And, you know, hey, Shredder, sometimes you have, I mean, I have no filter, Jim. I really have to bite my tongue off on most of my lives. So I get it. But some people can't handle it, and it's YouTube, so you got to have thick skin. I want to know the truth. I want to know what you know. I want to know what you found out. I want to know what you think.
And just to clear up the question that's being asked right now, because I'm not going to answer these, I'll let you guys ask me. And I may have some questions for you. I don't know everything. And I'm not vulgar or nasty or a liar just to be that way. I don't have a theory in a private investigating case. On a missing persons case, I don't have a theory. This isn't, you know, Mr. Smith with the candlestick in the library. That's not how this works. I am not a true crime fan. I don't watch Investigation Discovery. I don't watch Another 48 Hours. I hate all that shit. Somebody just asked me before we went on this program, do you know this case? And what's the little girl everybody is absolutely enamored with? They shaved her head.
Summer Wells.
I couldn't tell you 30 seconds about that case. I don't know. I don't know anything about the 2 girls put in a well, the black kids missing in San Diego. If it's not a case I'm working on, I don't give a shit. I have a very special practice. And by the way, there's somebody asking, because I'm from Clearwater Beach, Florida, and that's where I grew up, if I'm involved with the Church of Scientology. I am not, although everybody I come in contact with over the last couple of weeks thinks I look exactly like Tom Cruise from Maverick, who is a Scientologist. So
right on the money.
Yeah, I see where they put that. But my business, real quick, model is I only usually work 1 case at a time, where a cop could work 300. I work in several different states. I charge a one-time lump sum fee at the beginning. I do not charge an hourly wage. So you cannot fire a guy who's already been paid in full for the job. You may not want to work with me anymore, but you can't fire a guy who's been fully paid. So I'm not an hourly employee, and I'm the only guy in the country that does this. I specialize in missing persons, celebrity missing persons cases, minority missing persons cases, and missing things. I've had people call me to find a stolen RV or a Super Bowl ring. Now that's all out of the way. Fire away.
Kurt has scratches on his arm or not. It's Troy, right?
Troy Wadsworth has scratches on his arm,
the brother,
nail marks, which the father, who is Justin, who, by the way, the parents are not the ones that hired me. The one that actually paid me was a woman named Miss Wells. She is Justin's sister, is the one that paid me. But the ones that they wanted on the bookwork that hired me was the grandparents, which would be the paternal side, the father's
Karen
side.
And Larry.
In the property.
Larry and Karen, Justin's parents.
I called them Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah,
Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa. That's how we do it. So, but go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay.
We wrote down some questions earlier. Kaz is going to ask, because actually I'm losing my voice because I know I sound like Demi Moore, but I'm not trying to be sexy.
Yes.
Well, it's working.
It is. Okay. I heard you speaking on those elusive tape. First of all, did you know you were being recorded on the phone with Candace?
I assume I'll answer that, because I've had that question like 15 times today.
Oh,
I don't give a shit. You can record any conversation. I feel that I'm always being filmed. I'm always being recorded. There was nothing on those tapes that I wouldn't have said right here, right now. In fact, I'll expand on anything you want. So if you want to record me, you got my permission now. I don't give a shit. So there was nothing on there I would have said behind private. Hopefully you can hear the passion in my voice on that call.
But Jim, we get that, but we're just curious, regardless of how you feel about it. Did they tell you that they were recording that call?
No.
Okay.
But they might not had to have if they're in a one-party state. I don't know.
No, we get it. We were just curious, regardless of how you felt. And we know you're an open book, but we wanted to know if they were letting you know that that call was being recorded.
And guys, I'm gonna throw something real quick in there, because hopefully we got time. I think I might have told them to record every call. I just didn't know they were recording me. But I mean, I think I gave them that advice. So God bless them.
Okay.
All right. So, as you know, we all know that what Kurt has, what you think Kurt's been doing to Dylan for the past 2 years. When we did a search on Kurt Wadsworth background, on the services that are available to us, which are maybe limited to what you have available to you, we couldn't find any criminal records on Kurt per se. Were you, in your investigation, did you find any criminal records on Kurt at all? We found some on Troy, yes, but nothing on Kurt.
Nothing that would raise an eyebrow to the degree of the other family members. But just to start from the beginning here, Kurt Wadsworth did not come into this story. If you go back to the beginning, even days before I was hired, and I spoke with the family maybe 3 or 4 days before they ever gave me $1. In fact, I begged him. I says, I'm not for everybody. Look into who I am. Look into my cases. Understand what I'm about. I don't work under you. I'll work for you. So, for example, what a lot of people think they do with a private investigator is they get a private investigator, and then the parents say, okay, I want you to look up this license plate. Call this guy. I want you to look into this lead. I want you. No. I'm not taking directions from a Costco worker. I just told you I went to school for this. I'm going to go ahead and take instructions from a woman who didn't pay me, who's a Costco employee. God bless everybody who works at Costco, but I'm not paying anybody at the checkout line to find a missing person. It's why they hired me. So I'll run down leads. If you want me to look something up, God bless you, I'll do it. But what I'm telling you and what I'm looking for, I have no reason to lie. So with all due respect to the mother and the father, which, by the way, I didn't even speak to for the first week of the investigation. I was told not to. I have that in text messages. I got proof of some conversations, too. And on this show tonight, I'm going to let you know what those are, which includes domestic violence between the mother and the father over the last 12 years, 14 years, which includes domestic violence between Dylan Rounds and his father, between the grand. I got it all. If they want to go ahead and get in the ring and challenge the bull, they're going to get the horns. I didn't want to do that, but they let a press release go earlier today that made it seem like I had done a whole lot of bad shit and I was a really bad guy. But you know what they never said? They never discredited or went against any of the things I said, just that I'm into conspiracy theories. I don't have a theory as a private investigator. So that's where, but the first guy that was in this, when I first started, was a man named Chase, a big, burly, mountain-looking guy with a beard, and they were offering $20,000 for their son and $5,000 for this fucking moron.
Let me ask you one question, Jim. How did you start in the case? Did they contact you? Like, when did you actually get involved with Dylan Rounds'
Here's
case?
how this works.
I just have to let Oscar out. Won't be a tick.
Okay.
Is Oscar her husband?
Oscar is her Frenchie.
Oh, it's a French bulldog. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to wait, or are we going to go?
No, you go. I'll be listening still.
Yeah, you go. She'll hear you.
So how I got involved in this case is there's a bunch of different Facebook pages and websites, whether they want to admit to it or not, that'll reach out to me, that'll send me cases. I had just solved a couple of cases in the state of Idaho. This guy looked scary. The family was flailing in the first couple of days. Here's this sweet-looking young little kid who I thought was 14, and it was sent to me by a couple of Facebook pages and media outlets, and they said, will you at least call this family and let them know? I never call anybody with a price. I don't even take a case unless I discuss it with the family. I don't know that I could do it. Let me give you a couple examples of cases I can't do. I don't do people that leave the country. If some guy from Iran or China takes his kids and goes to another country, don't call me. If there's a 4-year-old that went missing in 1979, he's probably my age now if he's alive. I don't do children cases. And I don't do cases where parents take the children. And let me tell you why. I've done these before. And what happens is you take these kids and the mother takes the kids away, and the father's a big time car dealer. He wants to pay me 10 grand to hunt them down. And I find the mom and I find the kids and I turn them in, and she says, my kid's being molested for the last 8 years. Now, I might have found kids that were missing, but I'm bringing them back to a bad situation. I do not do kids cases. Now, when I mean kids, I mean anybody under the age of, let's say, 15, 16, down to toddlers, stuff like that. So when I first got the call, I reached out to both parents. Both numbers, cell phone numbers, were on flyers. And they said, Jim, it's up to you. You could cold call them. And I did. I have a Florida area code, which I've had that number for 2 decades. So people will think I'm in the state of Florida. I'm based out of Mississippi. I'm in Mississippi right now. So basically what I did was I reached out to the mother. She hung up on me. I could have had Dylan Rounds in my living room. Never talked to me. That's okay. I understand. They're getting a lot of calls. I might seem like an ambulance chaser, whatever. The next call was to the father. He answered the phone. I told him who I was and why I was calling. He was extremely gruff. He was extremely rude. I understand. Their kid's missing. They got some guy calling them at night. They don't know my background. I have a voice like I'm trying to sell them car insurance. I talk fast. I don't have a lot of time for bullshit. But I offered my services for free. I says, let me go over this with you. I'll let you know what I think. I'll run backgrounds on anybody you want for free. And then I'll let you know after about an hour or 2 consultation on this, whether or not I think I could even help you. He hung up on me.
Wow.
A day later, I get a call back from those same media outlets, and they said, how did it go? And I says, these bastards hung up on me. I'm already moving on to other people. They says, you know what? Contact the family again. There's an aunt that we think you need to speak with. And I spoke with her for 3 days. This is all around the time that Chase Venstra was the boogeyman. See, the family has swung and missed on this thing 6 times. They thought Chase Venstra, and he's running around with no shoes, and he's covered in fucking blood, and he's kidnapped our kid. It took me 3 hours to cross Chase Venstra off the list. That's where we started, and I did that before I ever spoke to the 2 parents. And it was leading up to talking to the 2 parents that's the most interesting thing, my friend.
Yeah, he was at the Little Caesars Pizza, right? 3 hours away.
Yeah, on film. Now, here's how I got Chase Venstra, where the cops couldn't find him because it looked bad. Nobody could find him. Their son's missing. This scary-looking guy who looks nothing like that now, by the way. He's lost 60 pounds. He does not have a beard. And the photo they showed now, is he a good guy? Nah, he's a piece of shit. But he didn't kidnap their son. He wasn't covered in blood. And let me tell you something else about Chase Venstra, which is the most important thing about Chase Venstra. Guess who his arch enemy is? The guy he hates more than anything in this world and was his former boss. The first guy that told me that he was gay, Kurt Wadsworth. Kurt Wadsworth is the one that went to that family and said, he's the one that has your son. He's the one that knows what happened to your son. The family was getting this direction from Kurt Wadsworth and his brother Troy because they hated this son of a bitch. It's why they developed a little posse to go around the desert. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, so Kurt was actually saying that he was being held against his will in Montello, like 2 different locations.
Maybe he was. I don't know. I only needed to find out whether or not. So what I did to get a hold of Kurt, what I needed to do to get a hold of the Venstra kid was I called his parents. His mom was a school teacher. His dad owned a business. They were nice people. I spoke with his sister-in-law and his brother, all educated college people with incredible jobs that answered my calls. I says, where the fuck's your son? And they said, he's here. Nobody's called us. They says, who are you? Now, they were willing to, Chase Venstra's family was interested in talking to me because I'm not a cop and I'm not from the area. They said the cops and the people in that area and Kurt Wadsworth hate my son. I says, well, I'm finding out some things about Kurt Wadsworth. Have your son call me. I didn't take Chase's word for it that he didn't abduct this kid. His parents told me where to go look. Check Little Caesars, check this. And I did. And Chase Venstra had nothing to do with this kid's disappearance. So now Chase Venstra and Chase Venstra's son, who's 17 years old, virtually the same age as Dylan Rounds, basically get on the phone with me, with his parents, his mom who's a school teacher and his dad. I got 4 people on the phone and I say, okay, we've crossed you off the list. I want to help you. I'm going to go publicly, Chase, and say that you have nothing to do with this. But you got to tell me what's going on with this. And that's where this shit gets crazy.
I thought Chase was younger than that.
Chase is younger than what?
Just hearing who Chase was and stuff, I thought he was like in his 20s, 30s.
I think he is. He has a son who's 17. So his son and him and his parents, Chase's parents, who are in their 60s, were all on the phone with me. So I said, Chase, tell me what's going on here. And he said, well, you need to look into Dylan Rounds' boyfriend. And that's when I said, aha, that's what I need. Now, you opened this show with a video that I asked you to play. It was one of the staple cases in my career, okay? Good Morning America, the whole 9 yards. Gloria Alvarado. Gloria Alvarado's parents sounded, when I first got their case, just like the Rounds family. He's a straight A student. He's a good kid. He's not in anything weird. He wouldn't be into this. He's this, he's that. He just likes to plant seeds in the fucking desert, whatever the story is, right? God bless him. When people go missing, they become straight A students, great sons, great daughters. You can't say anything bad about them. They're not this, they're not that. And by the way, I don't know what the big deal is about me saying somebody is or isn't gay if there's nothing wrong with being gay.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with being gay.
Well,
Nothing.
everybody seems to think that I'm insulting the Pope by calling this kid that, and I don't necessarily totally think he's gay. He might be asexual. We'll get to that. So what I did was I asked this family, the 17-year-old son of Chase and Chase, to tell me what's going on here, and they said, look into Dylan Rounds' boyfriend. And I says, his boyfriend? Who's his boyfriend? And they said, Kurt Wadsworth. And I says, where can I reach that kid? And they said, he's 59, 60 years old, and he's the guy that I ran out of town for because he threatened to kill me.
He's 62.
Yeah, he's 62.
62.
Close enough.
And Troy is 60.
Yeah.
Oh, disgusting.
So those two hate each other. So now we're off and running. Now I got to call the parents and ask them if their son's gay.
Jim, this is what I'm telling Jim, excuse me. This is what I'm telling everyone. We don't care if Dylan's gay. I don't care if Dylan's gay, transsexual, bisexual, asexual. The problem is when a 62-year-old man might have groomed this child when he was 17. That is a little disgusting.
Well, do you know why this is an issue with the people I'm working for?
Because
you tell me.
Their religion.
Their religion.
What religion are they?
They're Mormon.
Oh, okay. And we know Mormons just love to be gay, right? I mean, they do everything they can to promote the gay community in the Mormon religion, don't they? I got people in the chat room asking me, because I'm from Clearwater, if I'm a Scientologist, but I'm not allowed to say that. One of the family members told me, hey, listen, you got to cut that out. Now, whether they're practicing or not practicing, I'm Catholic. I don't know. Everybody is to everybody. I don't give a shit what you believe in as long as it works for you. But one of the reasons, and this has never come out, is because of the family's religious background. They didn't want it. Sometimes it's more, and you can see this in this case. And this is what I believe. You don't have to believe me. I think sometimes the image of the kid that's missing is more important than the image that will lead you to finding him. And that's why I had you play Gloria Alvarado's case to start this. A family member told me, and I should have done this in that case, and it wouldn't have taken me 38 days to solve it. The average case takes me 8 days. And they said we didn't want her dating black men. The reason Gloria Alvarado disappeared from her family is her boyfriend was a black guy. I looked at all the kids in her school. There was 3 black guys. One was her age. Found out where his grandma lived. He had a debit card. He used the Uber and the Lyft. And that's how I was able to track him down.
Wow.
What I should have done at the beginning is said, hey, listen, her parents don't want her dating black men. They don't want her dating blacks. Bottom line. Now, I would have been ostracized, and all these triggered woke people would have been up my ass. Bottom line is I found their fucking kid. Who gives a shit? If I'm the bad guy and your kid comes home, that's all that matters. I'm not looking for a crime here. There is no crime. A missing person is not a crime. So one of the problems here is the police are looking for a crime. I'm looking for a missing person like a repo man. So I looked at this case.
Like a repo man.
I said, I have an opportunity here. Do I do what I did with Gloria Alvarado and sit on this gay thing, or do I go to the family with it and try to find out what's going on? And call after call after call about both Dylan Rounds and about Kurt Wadsworth was that Kurt has been a homosexual almost his entire life. It cost him his marriage. It cost him the relationship with the majority of his children. He's been caught in drag in these campers that he lives with. By the way, he owns a bar called the Saddle Sore. Let me ask you guys something. Yeah, where is a sore at when you ride a saddle?
On your butt.
It is so funny.
That's right. That
it's
sounds like a gay bar.
It's so funny you say that because my good friend Andy said, "What saddle swords? Do you even understand what that?" And I thought, gosh, you know what? I never thought about it like that until you said it, and now you said it in a saddle sword bar. Let me ask you real quick:
the
Is
saddle
his
sword
ex
and the cowboy, or the saddle
Cowboy
sword
Saloon?
and the cowboy? Yeah. The only thing they're missing is John Travolta's bar.
The Cowboy Saloon. Let me ask you, Sherry Pendleton, is that an ex-wife to Kurt? Do you know a Sherry Pendleton?
I don't recognize that name. You got to understand here. I don't have my notes with me, and I got to.
She's a partner at the saddle store.
I don't, and I'm going to get caught in this one. I don't know. I did have a woman call me who said she owned. I had about like 5 people call me and tell me they own the saddle store. One group said that they owned the property and they leased it to them. Then somebody else said that there was machines in there and that there was a different licensing for the machines.
Oh, yeah.
Slot
there would
machine.
be. Yes,
okay.
There would be.
And then somebody said, well, he lives on the property, but he hasn't paid rent. So I had a woman call me and tell me she owned that place. It might be that woman.
Cheri. Yeah, Cheri Pendleton is the owner of the saddle store, or one of the owners.
Okay. I don't believe it. I could be wrong on the name, but I did speak to many people involved with Kurt, including Kurt himself and his family members. They actually reached out to me.
Really?
Yeah.
So then what happened when you realized, okay, well, everyone's talking about Kurt being a 62-year-old man being Dylan's boyfriend. Like, how did you get to him, from him to Troy? Like, how did you, talk to them, reach out to them? Like, what did you get from them?
Well, first I had to tell the grandparents and the aunt. And I said, listen, it's been 4 days. I can't sit on this anymore. A private investigator's job is not necessarily, and this is where people watch too much goddamn television, it's not necessarily to solve the case for a criminal purpose. It's not necessarily to solve the case at all. Sometimes it's just to vet things, to pass information. I told the family the cops are the best in the world at what they do, but there's 3 or 4 things I can do that the police can't. I'm not bound by the same jurisdictions they are. I can work on one case full time. I can be 100% available to you 24 hours a day. Saying things to me like lawyer doesn't mean shit. If Kurt wants to say lawyer, the cops can't talk to him anymore. He says lawyer to me, I'm going to ask him my second question. So there's a lot of things I can do that the cops can't do, which is what I told the family I would do. And I would not take another case or let go until I got a call from Aiden's mom, who, by the way, hired me as well. And we'll get to that. That's another boy who looks just like him, who went missing 20 miles away. So at this point in the family, we got to get the parents on the phone. And that's when the grandparents and the aunt started telling me the family's history. I said, if this kid's gay and the mother and the father don't know about it, if he's already working on a farm, tell me this kid's whole life history. And that's when the aunt pretty much threw the mother under the bus to me. And then the mother got on the phone with me and threw the aunt and the ex-husband under the phone. The mother's exact quotes to me about her ex-husband were, I haven't had to deal with him really in years. And driving into this scenario, coming to this area where my son's missing, I broke out in hives and was sick to my stomach because I was going to have to deal with him. Now, she wasn't sick to her stomach or broke out in hives because her fucking kid is missing, but she broke out in hives and was sick to her stomach because she was going to have to deal with Justin, who, by the way, I liked. Everybody told me what a prick he was. I think, by the way, he's the only person on camera that's ever cried for his son. I haven't seen the mom shed one goddamn tear. I've been more emotional than the mother has. So the father, to me, despite his background, the mother said he had beaten the shit out of her. The mother said he had beaten the shit out of his son, that the son had gone back and forth to both parents, playing one against the other until the grandfather bought him the property to get him out of all that shit. And that's why he's been there since he's 17 years old. The grandparents were phenomenal people, and the father and the mother, especially the father, went up one side of his dad and down the other. How could you buy my son that property? Which, by the way, there's a shitload of sexual offenders in that area. I guess people don't buy farms in Tennessee or Washington anymore.
Yeah, there are a lot of SOs in that area. And
how many are there? Kaz, how many sexual offenders are there in a town of 200?
Well, we will bring that up on the screen and we will actually show how we came upon the amount of SOs that are on there. Mark, could you please bring that up, which we've got from the Utah Registered SO Offenders list? And we've been accused that we don't know what the heck we're doing. But I will tell you, for the people who don't know what I used to do for a living, I have university credentials as a forensic auditor, so I know how to delve into finding things. So, Mark, oh, I've lost her. She must be going behind the scenes. So,
and by the way, Kaz, if I could just interrupt you for a second,
sure.
One of the points I want to make on this show is if I want you to do something for me, just humor me here for a second. I want you to say, your son's gay. I want you to say that.
Your son's gay.
Now, if I said, listen, your son's gay, it's the same thing said two different ways. With your accent, the fact that you're a woman, your delivery, it's a much easier pill to swallow. There's a hell of a lot of people that just don't like what I say because they don't like the way that I say it. You and I just said the exact same thing, and it would be taken two totally different ways because of our gender and our inflection in our voice and the way that our accents sound. And that's very important in this case because I think that's where them hicks out there lost it with me.
Yeah, I must agree with you on that point. I mean, because you're so forthright in how you say things, people may take the way you say things the wrong way. Okay,
we have here, Kaz. What is this here? What are we talking about?
All right, this is the Utah Registered Sexual Offenders website.
Kaz, it's Elko County, Nevada, Montello.
Sorry. I beg your pardon, I stand corrected. We were looking at the other one before. Anybody can access this site. You do not have to pay for it. It is a public access website. So you can go on there, and all those red flags are registered sexual offenders.
So if I told you that there was only 20 registered sex offenders and I mentioned that there was 74 out of 200 or whatever the case is, I was called a liar and that I didn't know my facts, which is what I'm passing on to you guys. See, the problem with this is you got a hell of a lot of people out there that have different opinions based on facts. So one of you guys is wrong. I don't know. I don't live in kitty fiddler land, but I'm going to bet based on seeing that there's 74 of them because I can't imagine they put a flag there. And that's 74 known. That doesn't necessarily mean unknown. There could be a guy squatting there that was some sort of a Chester the molester we don't know about.
No, that's exactly right. And because there's a lot of BLM land.
Jim, I get ridiculed all the time because when someone says something that I can't wrap my head around or it doesn't make sense, I tend to laugh. So I get the comments like, I can't believe you're talking about Dylan missing and you're laughing. I'm like, I'm not laughing about Dylan being missing, but you have to admit, Jim is pretty blunt.
Is it blunt, guys, or is it honest? Is it just honest? I mean, I have no axe to grind here. I've already been paid in full. There's no, I mean, I don't have a theory. So if I'm telling you something, cross it off the list. They wouldn't let me cross this off the list. And by the way, the family's press release doesn't say anything about the fact that I was wrong, that this kid had a relationship with that elderly guy.
Yeah. Okay, I've got another question for you. And I don't know if you have any more information on this. There was information that there was 2 other teens or mid-teens up to 20 that were also missing in the same region. Do you have any other information about that, Jim? Do you know anything about that?
Hired me. Yeah, one of them's family hired me. It was the first time in a long time, or maybe ever, that I've ever taken 2 cases at once. There's a boy that went missing there named Aiden Klum. And his mom he saw me involved with this, contacted me. The kids looked the same. There was a lot of similarities in the 2 cases. And the mother
Amy
of Dylan Rounds contacted
Amy.
the Klum mother and shit on me. And so I hadn't heard from either of them. They both paid me in full and decided to take their ball and go home because they didn't like the narrative that I had. And I offered both mothers the exact same thing. I says, let me throw two things at you guys, not theories, but things we got to cross off the list. If I'm wrong, I'll refund your money 100%. Neither of them did it. Neither of the grandparents did it or anything. And by the way, the grandparents told me and the aunt told me in the Dylan Rounds case, whatever the mother says, take with a huge boulder of salt. She's batshit crazy. She's batshit crazy. And then I start getting phone calls during this investigation that says that the mother has all kind of liens and lawsuits in the millions of dollar range. So maybe, you know, I mean, the mother's being sued by everybody's lost court cases or something all over the place. So, you know, she works at Costco and she's got millions of dollars pending against her in legal liens. I don't know all of what that is because I didn't look into the mother. Like I said, she didn't hire me, but she was definitely taking the lead on this. And I gave both families an out, which they chose not to take.
Let me ask you a question.
And that's true. And Sleuth Mom, hey, Sleuth Mom, who just asked that question is the one that put my audio up of my phone conversation. Sleuth Mom, which by the way, however you clean that up, you made me sound terrific, and I don't have a problem with that. But Sleuth Mom, you should have called me and gave me a chance to talk to you, because I can send you some text messages of the family calling each other names, and I'd like to know if you'd post those. Would you post the messages that I have from the grandparents calling the mom a whack job? Or the aunt saying that, you know, would you post those just like you posted my audio? No, you wouldn't do that. Never called me, and I wish she would. And by the way, my telephone number is 813-993-2242. 813-993-2242. This phone is sitting in front of me right now. And by the way, I have trap calls, so if you call me with a block number and curse me out, I'm calling you back.
Good on you.
Sleuth Mom. Can you believe a guy like me goes to college for this shit, has cases that I've solved with all due respect? I don't care how arrogant I sound. And I'm getting questioned by fucking Sleuth Mom? Sleuth Mom. I mean, what's next? You know, PI Daddy? I mean, all these, where are these people coming from? These are, you know what they're like? They're like little league football coaches that never played in college, that watch football on Sunday, and they go into a middle school football field or a youth football field and they scream and yell at these kids because they never did it themselves. They're chicken hawks. So what they do is they watch Investigation Discovery, they put on too much eye makeup, a shitload of fucking lipstick, get a YouTube channel and a Facebook page and read off fucking Wikipedia. When a guy like me is actually getting hired to solve these cases and looking through things. If Dylan Rounds isn't gay and didn't have a sexual relationship with that guy, his family wouldn't have fucking called me and told me otherwise. I spoke with the Wadsworth family. I spoke with his son, who got into a fist fight because he called his dad an old faggot. Now that happened.
Wow.
If these people want to know the truth about what's going on out there, they need to look past their own arrogance and agenda and stop being triggered and start looking at the real thing. But then again, guys, I'm not for everybody. I have two speeds.
Jim, what about the guy that you were talking about where the nurse came out there? Joe.
Yeah. Joe.
And you said that he was like had bed sores and everything, and the only thing he was talking about was Dylan that day. What was that story? Troy's best friend, who was also a pedophile.
So Friday night, I get a phone call from a woman, and I have her phone number. I know where she lives. I vetted her. I looked her up. And I get some of these. I get psychics, and, you know, psychics call me all the time, guys. And I always say the same thing. I will hire you, and I'll work with you. Just tell me who's going to win the Stanley Cup game tonight. Tell me who's going to win the Super Bowl. And if you were a psychic, would you really be fucking around with Dylan Rounds or talking to a dead person? Wouldn't you talk to John Lennon or JFK? Wouldn't you talk to Jesus? But no, they're talking to a dead mom in Connecticut, and they're going to come to me with it. So I get all kind of psychics and everything. Friday night, I get a phone call from a sobbing woman. She was crying on the phone. She had a 775 area code. And at the time, my phone number was put up there by the family for the majority of the profiles that were out there, which I take calls 24/7. I take them all. And this woman was crying, and she says, I need to talk to you. Are you a cop? And I says, no, I'm not. She says, are you with the family? And I says, no, I'm not. I'm a private investigator. I gave her my backgrounds. And through her tears, she told me that she was the social worker and a nurse that was involved with the three women, and I have their names, that were abducted by one of the one of Kurt's family members. She didn't say who initially, and that she was the one that counseled these women after two of them had been held for 4 months, and one of them actually dated one of the brothers. And these women were trapped and put together and held in a storage unit. In a, she described it as a shed. Now, guys, you got to understand in that area. And I says, well, wait, how did this come up? How do you know this? I'm going to ask you a shitload of questions. She says, I was working with an elderly man in Elko today. He had bed sores. He hadn't gone to the bathroom outside of his pants in 2 weeks. And I have to go in with the state. I have to go in with the state and make sure there's no elder abuse. Now, he didn't have any caretakers. So I went there and talked to this man. He was very old, but he was very with it, despite not being able to move around, which she called a tin shed with no running water. This guy was basically taking his shit in his easy chair for a month. And she said all he talked about was the Wadsworth family and Dylan Rounds. And I said, well, what does that have to do with anything? So there's a gossip guy out there that's getting this information from people. She says, well, this man seemed to think that Dylan Rounds might have met the same fate that the three women did. And the woman who had never heard of Dylan Rounds, this caretaker and this nurse whose name I have, whose company she works with. Now, by the way, if I give you her name right now, she loses her career.
Yeah, no, we don't.
We don't want to know her name.
She breaks HIPAA. She does all that. But I got all this. So if the proper authorities wanted to call me on this, I'd probably give it to them, right? All they got to do is give my number. So here's the deal. She calls me and says, oh, my God, this kid's missing. And he, by the way, the elderly man also knew that Kurt had been with men and dressed up in drag. He had the same story. And he said, hey, listen, I think this kid, and the woman just was in shock because she had remembered taking care of the three women that had escaped a shed from the same last name of the same family. Now, it wasn't Kurt's shed that they escaped from. It was one of the other brothers. And I have that information here, and I will send it to you guys. And basically, she called me and said, I know this is a fact because the three women that family had captive.
Jim, we showed his picture last night, Troy. He's a monster.
Let me see it. I haven't seen it. Let me see it.
I'm going to pull it up right now. Hang on, guys, Monkey.
Yeah,
for those that don't know, I have a Chihuahua who doesn't have legs that work. She has legs that work, but she's always like barking for me to go pick her up. She's like, Mommy, my legs don't work. I got like a fly flying around here, a mosquito or something. Okay. You guys continue to talk. I'm looking for it.
But just wait for that.
So basically, this woman had taken care of three sexually assaulted women. I said, what did this family do to them? What did, Wadsworths do to them? And she said they were put in a shed. They were made to remove their shoes. They put their shoes in the desert. They poked holes in water jugs. If they didn't do sexual favors, then they would poke holes in the water jugs. He'd put a 5-gallon water jug out there with some pinholes. And now, who is this handsome?
That's Troy. That's Troy Wadsworth.
Yeah. There's no way that guy's got any issues.
Alleged stalker nabbed in Montello.
Mm-hmm.
This is an article out of the Elko Daily that I found.
This man for 2 weeks went around that town and said the nail marks and scratches on one arm were from an ATV accident. This guy, and I'm the fucking loose cannon, I'm the liar. This guy, who, by the way, looks like every sort of Halloween mask anybody ever bought in 1985. This guy's walking around that town. Now, with all due respect to the family, I'm going to go with what you guys said. You got 74 out of 200 registered sex offenders in that area. You buy a farm in that area for a 17-year-old kid, and you put him in there in a fucking grinder with this asshole and his fucking brother and his other brother who is a registered sex offender, and you put them all in there and you wonder what can go wrong. And the guy that you're looking for is Chase Venstra, who wasn't even in the area, wasn't even almost in the same area code. It makes no sense.
See, Jim, did you ever look into like who Dawn and Jim were? Because, the fact that, Dylan did fire Dawn 3 weeks prior or whatever, like that was kind of strange too.
Have you seen pictures of Dawn?
No.
I don't even know Don's last name.
Yeah, listen, Chase was walking around with a gun, but the thing is people were like, would you look here? Did you look here? Did you look here? The family wouldn't let me cross off Kurt and this asshole. I got to cross things off before. I don't jump from first to second base unless it's open. I am not moving off those first two guys. The first guy we got rid of was Chase. Remember, the family was all up in arms. It was Chase.
They were.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
It wasn't Chase. So then I says, okay, there's your one. My turn. Chase said these guys are gay. People in town are telling me that. They have a relationship. He's a daddy figure to him. You know, with all due respect, this is being told to me by school teachers. This is being told to me by real estate agents. This is being told to me by landowners. A guy that owns an alpaca farm. I don't even know what the fuck.
Oh, yeah, the farmer, yeah.
Oh, I love alpacas.
I thought alpaca was those green vegetables everybody puts on fucking tacos. So I didn't know what an alpaca was. These are good people that are calling me. The other thing that they said, and I want you to keep this picture up because I also sent you a picture, Kurt, that I tried to explain to the family. And the Elko sheriff knows about this, is several people called me with scary stories, which is how I believe the two cases may possibly be joined, even though there's a lot of similarities. Aiden Klum and Dylan Rounds. Give me a second on this, and then I'm going to be done being long-winded, and I'll just fire away quick answers to questions.
Yeah, we've been following Aiden Klum.
Both kids go missing in the same geographic area. Both kids, and I showed it on Zav Girls channel, had an interest in older men. Both kids had...
Wait. Older men on both kids. Explain that, please, because we are under the impression that Aiden Klum had pictures in his phone as men 19, 20 dressed as women.
Okay, well, he's 19 years old, and the pictures that... Now, when I asked his mom, because I had already been a couple of days into the Rounds case, I asked her, I says, is he gay? She gasped. And I says, what's going on here? She says, why did you ask me if he was gay? And I says, I just want to cross it off the list. You're telling me there's some similarities. Let me cross it off the list. Was he gay? Hell, maybe the two kids met up on Tinder and they're fucking hanging out in Seattle. What do I know? So I got to cross it off. And you know what she told me? And she sent me a text message. She says, I was able to look through some of his computer stuff, and this is what I found. And it was older men, and I got the pictures. I got the text from the mom in drag. Now, people have beat me down that if he was looking at men in drag, that's not gay, or you can be a drag queen and not be a gay man. I don't give a shit. It was out of the ordinary. The parents didn't know about it. And listen, if there is straight guys that are in the drag, God bless you. I've never fucking met one. But then again, you know, I don't get out much. What do I know? So I'm telling you, the bottom line is that both kids had some similarities in age. They almost look alike. But the one kid was a little bit different. One had lost his shoe. Well, the two mothers started talking. And that's when Rounds' mother started shit-talking me to the other mother. I don't think she wanted Aiden stealing Dylan's thunder in the press, and it was coming because I was going to put them together. And that was the first time I heard from the cops. They called me and said, you're telling these parents that these cases are joined. And I said, no, they're not. But here's what the issue is. Yes, I have those texts, and I will send them to you.
I've actually seen them myself. So
well, I showed them on Zav Girls channel. If you watch the interview, they're on there, and everybody went nuts because they saw a guy with lipstick on. But
I have not seen the pictures yet.
Yeah, I've seen them, so I
have
can
not.
confirm.
And guys, you know, I almost ended up doing this show in drag just to quiet all the haters. But you know, you guys wanted to see the Astros hat. Yeah, I was going to do this in full with a red wig and everything. But let me explain to you something else that's going on out there, and then I'm done, and I'll just fire away pepper questions. Several people called me, an alpaca farmer, a real estate agent, and a woman who is she works for the government there. They all had the same stories. None of them really knew Dylan Rounds, but they all had either gone coyote hunting or camping in the woods out there. That's a cat? Is that
a wildcat?
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happened was these guys all had formed some sort of a militia group, some sort of a group, and they were going out and policing the desert. I talked to probably half a dozen people who this man right here, his brother, another guy named Sean, who I was later told had something to do with Kurt Wadsworth that maybe they were an item at one point. We're all going around putting guns in campers and hunters' faces around town. The sheriff of Elko knows of these people policing their own desert. And these people were putting guns into their faces. Now, I only wanted to know if this man and Kurt and all them were policing the desert. Maybe 5.5 weeks ago, they ran into Aiden Klum. And I had that question. Aiden Klum walks 18 miles into the fucking desert. Maybe that 18 miles ran him right into this fucking asshole and his little group. Which, by the way, I've got tons of good people that have told me that these people put guns in their faces and said, what are you doing out in the desert? We got to police this area. There's too many meth heads robbing people out here. Which, by the way, these people are living on ELM.
You're serious? Like, so they were literally out there stopping people with guns, acting like the police of the Highway 30 and 233.
That's correct. Somebody just asked a question. Let's knock this off real quick, please. What are they asking?
Yes, we're talking about the man with the bed sores. You said that he was actually a registered sex offender too, right?
Yeah, he was a registered sex offender. All he did was talk about the Dylan Rounds case in front of the nurse, who is the one woman that called me. If she listened to what I said, she would know that the guy had very little to do with it. All she did was get the nurse to look into Dylan Rounds and saw that Dylan Rounds, based on my conversation, was involved with the Wadsworth, and said, holy shit, I counseled the 3 women that were that. So the guy with the bed sores who couldn't even get out of a chair and was crapping his pants for a month and a half, he has nothing to do with this other than he told a nurse about the case, who counseled the woman that these morons had abducted and kept for months. Next question.
And that's what you were talking about, the shoes. Like when you say about the guys used to make them take their shoes off and with the water, and then it's weird that Dylan's boots were off. Like that's a little strange.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And listen, if I'm wrong on something, I'll be the first to look at it. But I got to cross this guy off the list. I mean, look at this guy. You know what I mean? I mean, don't you think this is the kind of guy that's hanging around? Would you guys want, I don't know if you have kids, would you want him hanging around your 19-year-old son in a fucking desert? Even if you didn't know his criminal record? Look at this fucking guy.
And in regards
he looks like he's like one step away from being like on The Shining, looking through the door. Jackie's here.
In regard to him, Jim, I know about the scratch/claw marks.
But why? Are the cops afraid of the Wadsworth? Like, how come nobody would go out there if he has scratches on his arms?
The father, Justin's a tough guy. I liked him. I thought he could get some stuff together. He talked about going to these people's houses and cutting off their fingers and all this bullshit. I said, listen, here's what you
okay. Let me interrupt you one more time and I'm done interrupting because I want to touch on this while you're here. Dylan's father actually said the words came out of his mouth that he saw the scratches on Troy's arm, but he didn't take a picture because he was too busy filming the conversation.
What he told me when I told him about the scratches in the arm on a conference call, I don't know if that's in that PI mommy or whatever her name, Web Sleuth Mom's audio. I didn't listen to it all. Hell, I was on the conversation. I should know what was said, but I begged the family to take a picture of this man's arm for nothing more than to document it. He had told people around town that the scratches were caused by an ATV accident, that he had fallen off a 3 or a 4-wheeler. And what I said was, just take the pictures of it. Let me ask him. Let me talk to him, see where he got the scratches. Because in order to be a good liar, you have to have a great memory. That's why I don't lie, guys. I have a terrible memory, right? If I lied, I'd be fucked. So what I did was I asked the family, and the family's like, no, you need to talk to this guy who was in a helicopter. By the way, did you see the picture of the guy looked like a pro wrestler with the beard and the big bodybuilder looking guy? He looked like a wrestler. He's flying around a helicopter and all this shit.
Heavy D Sparks.
Yeah, is Heavy D Sparks, who are those 2 guys that are the boxers?
I'm not sure who his crew is, but I do know who Heavy D Sparks is.
Come on, you know who his friends are, those 2 blonde kids from Cleveland that are now boxers. They're big web people.
Somebody in chat might know. Does anyone know Heavy D's sidekicks?
Jake Paul is Heavy D's buddy. That's his helicopter pilot. So
let me answer this real fast. Liz, the man in the picture on screen is Troy Wadsworth. He's the brother to Kurt Wadsworth, who Dylan might have had a relationship with, who's 62 years old. This man had scratches on one arm.
nail marks, not scratches, nail marks. And I begged the family to get a picture. I begged the family to go and question him. I begged the father who said he was a hard ass and his crew with guns were going to go to this guy's house. And you know what he told me on a conference call with the family? Yeah, I saw the scratches. Did you get a picture? No. I still want these guys to think that I'm their friends. Bullshit. I just said, let me see that phone. And then I told him the only other thing I wanted to do was ask to see Kurt Wadsworth's cell phone. If he deleted all the text messages between him and that boy for the last 2 years.
Let me ask one more question, Jim, real quick before I forget. When Justin Dillon's dad said he was videoing the conversation, was Troy wearing a long sleeve shirt? Like he wasn't. I mean, it's hot out. Is he wearing a long sleeve shirt, or could you see the scratches on the video?
I don't know anything about a video. I never saw one video the family sent me. I got a couple of still shots. They wouldn't send me the scratches on the arm. So the mom was on the call, and I said, sir, did you see the pictures? The mom says the pictures don't exist. There's no scratches on his arm. I said, there is scratches on his arm. Everybody in town has seen it. Please, guys, just take a picture and send it to me. If I'm wrong, I'll drop the case if there's not scratches. And the father went like this. Yeah, I saw the scratches. And everybody went, whoa, 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 whoa. There's like 10 people on the call. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What'd you say? And now the mother's embarrassed. She's got egg on her face. And I said, she goes, no, you need to look into the 2 other missing boys. I said, ma'am, first of all, you didn't fucking pay me. I'm not bound by what you tell me. I don't work for you, and I don't take direction by a Costco employee. That's not going to happen. I says, what you need to do is make sure that those aren't your son's nail marks on that guy's arm. And she started screaming, and she hung up. The aunt hung up. The father hung up, and the grandparents stayed on the call. So this man right here has fucking nail marks up and down one arm that nobody will post a photo of. Nobody will talk about. This man also has kidnapped people. You see his fucking criminal record. And I'm nuts to think that he might have more to do with this kid's disappearance. I'm not crossing anybody or even looking at anybody in this case until I cross this guy and his boyfriend off the list. And that's where we're at. And the family wouldn't let me do it.
Now, didn't they say also Sherry Peppis? No, Cindy Peppis. She was one of the ones that was the ex-girlfriend. Something like that. But then I heard that the 2 other girls that Troy kidnapped, they actually left town and literally changed their names.
Yes.
Did you hear that? And then the Cindy girl. Yeah, that is absolutely insanity. Do you know if Kurt has any kids? Wasn't Kurt one of Kurt's son supposedly in the militia?
I don't know anything about that. Now, my stuff is limited to after probably about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock this morning. I never looked into this case again. I still get phone calls, and it didn't start right away. I could tell you that from what I understand, Kurt has 8 children. And when you have 8 children, when you have a family that size, when you own a bar, when you have the presence that this family does, you probably don't want your big brother being looked at as messing around with a 19-year-old kid. I begged the cops to go to Kurt. This case comes down to 2 things. Just go to Kurt and ask to see his phone. Now, I guess now I'm hearing stories that the mother finally got all the stuff off the boy's phone, and there's nothing but tractors and shit on there. I don't give a fuck what's on the kid's phone. I didn't ask what was on the kid's phone. I asked what was on this man's brother's phone to see if he's, number one, a drag queen, if he's into men, if he's into young kids, if he sent pictures around, if he contacted other people, it would be interesting to see if his phone's been wiped or if he would give it up. You know what the cop said? He's too far away. I offered the police in Box Elder or Box Troll County, whatever the fuck the name of that place is, that on my own dime, I would send a limousine down to pick up this man and to pick up Kurt and bring him to the police station to show their cell phone and the scratches on their arm. And the police said no. They wouldn't do it. The one thing the family was right about.
Question for Jim. Mark, can I just...
and then I want to ask him. Go ahead.
We found that young Troy here has an outstanding warrant. Now, surely the police know of this and they can bring him in on the outstanding warrant and check these marks on his arm, for God's sake.
Why would they do that? They'd give me credibility. Why would they do that? I'll tell you what, I'll offer 10 grand right now to either of these assholes if they could pass a fucking polygraph test. Instead of going and getting a fucking helicopter and looking for your 15 minutes of fame, which, by the way, people say I'm looking for my 15 minutes of fame. If you follow my football career or my PI career, I'm going on 8 hours. I don't need 15 minutes of fame. I'll put 10 grand up that says these two assholes can't pass a polygraph test. Why won't the family do that? See, guys, you can't get yourself out of it. These two guys are who are in my sights. They're who I want to cross off the list. And until you can do that, I don't move from them. And unfortunately, that didn't fit the family's narrative.
Yeah, I agree. I've been looking into doing deep dives on these two guys, and I don't like what I see.
Yeah, they're definitely scary characters.
Scary is an understatement.
I would pay money to see Kurt dressed in women's clothing.
Oh, I'd pay money not to.
Guys, while we're on this conversation, I have just received a text message from the Rounds family. And let me read it to you if that's okay.
Okay.
It says, mark our words. You will never do this to another family. You are a disgrace and we will sink you. You finally came up against the wrong parents. So obviously they're watching the show right now. I think they've got bigger fish to fry than to worry about a private investigator that their grandparents of this boy or the parents of Dylan Rounds' folks hired. I think they're worried about the wrong thing. I think they need to go out there and now nothing about the scratches on his arms, nothing about the fact that these guys might have been in a relationship, nothing about the fact that I offered the money for the lie detector test. Rounds family, let me tell you something. You need to get out there and find your fucking son and not worry about helicopters or police chases or throwing the cops under the bus. What you need to do is focus on the people that your son was around. This didn't happen on my watch. You guys and I worked out something that I wanted to cross off the list, and you wouldn't let me do it. So I welcome any challenge you have. By the way, Mom, you don't look like you're very good at some of these fights. I've seen all the liens against you. Trust me, I'll be here the week and the week after and the year after and as long as I want to do this because my record speaks for itself. Will you find your son? That's what I want to know. Because to this point, I may have some theories and I may have some questions. They don't have shit. Why don't you tell me what the family's found at this point with all their endeavors? Nothing. And if you continue to push me, if you continue to do this, I have 2 national news stations that want me to go on tomorrow morning. So I'd watch your tone with a guy like me because you have bigger fish to fry. You threw the first stone, I'll throw the last boulder. And that's all I'm saying about that.
Jim, let me ask you, okay, who is that? So not the 2 kids, not Aiden Clune, not poor Dylan, but who was the other one that you guys were talking about on the call? Some 40-ish-year-old man that had no shoes on and he was found dead out there in that area?
They found a 40 or 41-year-old man dead out there when they were flying a helicopter around. I don't know anything about that. I just know that they found him. The family was worried it was their son. The biggest compliment here, guys, is that with the helicopters and the searches and the father and the parents and everybody, I'm going to believe that those people are very good at that. And I'm going to believe that they've searched that area. If that kid was in that area, they'd have found him by now. That's the biggest compliment I can give anybody because that's not what I do. So I'm going to basically trust that if he was out there in the areas they thought, they'd have found him by now.
Thank you, Liz.
But Jim, that wash, and I mean, there was just tons and tons and tons of mud that can fall off of those washes. I mean, it's especially with all the rain that weekend. You could lose somebody. You could lose an army out there in the salt wash, the flats.
What is this lady saying?
Oh, she's agreeing with you, Jim. She's just saying, Kaz, Ma, and Jim, Troy Wadsworth did have no marks on his arm. He has a history of kidnapping on his record, basically unsavory character. His brother is Kurt, and she said she wants we want answers, so she's just confirming.
But I mean, the sad part is that if Mrs. Cooley is doing what she's doing, it's like the bottom line and the end game to this is to find Dylan and to find out what happened to him. And sometimes the truth, And sometimes the truth hurts. And Jim comes at it pretty blunt, I'm going to say, but I'm a blunt person. I can relate to Jim, but I mean, the truth hurts. But you're talking about a population of a town of like 9 people. Jim, have you ever spoken to Ivo, who owns the Lucid Airport?
No.
There's a man out there that owns the Lucid Airport from Russia. He's been out there for a long time. I wonder if he knows or he has seen any of these guys riding around at night pulling people over. We're going to call. Know. Yeah, I'm going to give Ivo a call tomorrow.
I'm not sure.
What else did we want to ask him, Miss Kaz?
All right, Jim, if you were still working the case, because I've seen a few things flash up in chat, if you were still working on this case, would you personally go out to Montello and go and check out these marks on Troy's arm? If you were still working the case?
Well, I mean, when I found out about it, don't forget, I didn't get the case right away. And that's an excellent
No, I understand that. Yeah.
That's an excellent question. When you saw the first case that opened up this show, I never left my couch and found that girl and brought her home. When I first got this case, I was 60-40. I had 60% chance I thought he was still alive, 40% chance he wasn't. I'm at about 90-10 or 95-5. I don't think that kid's still breathing. I hope I'm wrong. It's different with a man than it is a woman. What other reason would they have for keeping him alive? Everything that kid owned was at that place. There's no money missing. There's no drugs missing. And listen, so you can understand keeping a woman alive in a place like that with a guy like this. And if the kid's not what we say he is, then why keep him alive in a situation like that? I don't know. But you ask me the question one more time and I'll answer it pretty direct. Go ahead. Say that again. If I was working the case, would I have gone out there? If I had the support of the family and it didn't feel like I was being pushed and pulled by people that did not hire me or being led around the nose by a woman who has no real education, who has no real background in this, and is basically, let me ask you a question. Are you 2 mothers?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's a little off that this mother hasn't cried once? God bless Justin. He's a tough guy, and he was on there sniveling and crying with sunglasses on. I haven't seen the mom with a tear. The fuck is that about? I showed it to my mom. She says that mother doesn't look pissed off at all. She doesn't look like she's weeping or have been crying or anything. She looks exhausted. She's doing a shitload of interviews. Look at Gloria Alvarado's mom. I've never worked a case where a missing person, the mother wasn't in tears. This woman doesn't. She looks like she's at a fucking tax audit. Now,
it all depends, Jim. It all depends. I mean, I've been in situations, and I'll give you a perfect example. When my mum passed couple of years ago, I couldn't cry. I really couldn't cry. And everybody kept asking me, why you can't cry, Kaz? I said, because if I start, I won't be able to stop. Did I cry after the everything that happened? Yes, I did. But at the point, I knew if I let myself break, I wouldn't be able to hold myself together. I'm not saying that's the case with Dylan's mum, but that's just me personally. Because if I let my emotions get to me, I'm a blubber and I don't do good in crying. I'm an ugly crier. Not good at the crying.
I don't know if I would be out there.
She's irritated.
The nail marks. The nail marks were seen by the father. He didn't take a picture. I got to fly across the country to take pictures of a fucking arm that they won't take a picture of. And by the way, guys, it took me about 15 minutes to realize after I spoke with the cops that if my loud ass mouth and the way I am was out there, I'd either have fucked up somebody or been in jail or disappeared by now. So I don't know. Like I said, I gave the family an out. Get Kurt Wadsworth's phone and take a picture of those nail marks. And if you can prove me wrong, I'll refund your money and back out of this 100%. They didn't do that.
Now, you made a very good point in that conversation that was recorded of you, and I'd like to bring this up, is you made it quite known that Dylan's mum knew that Dylan was staying at Kurt's trailer. So she was aware of it.
Yeah, they
found it out.
They actually brought some of that information to me.
Right. So she was aware. So, and you made a valid point that if Dylan has been staying over at Kurt's trailer for the past 2 years, he was underage at the age of 17. And you made the point that if he was, and I'm saying was, in a relationship 2 years ago, he was only 17. So that was an offence at that age. And as you stated, it was in the what was the correct terminology used? The statute of limitations was still there. So why couldn't they go to law enforcement, because they weren't answering your calls, to say, look, we want you to go and get his data from his mobile phone, or cell phone you call it, cell phone, to see those messages, to be able to prove it, go to a judge and
His
say, look,
father saw them. Like it's so mind-blowing.
he
The
has
father
not
should
seen
have
any
been.
messages, Ma. He's not seen any messages that would implicate Kurt
I'm
was
talking
in a
about
relationship.
Justin saw the scratches on
No,
Troy's
I'm not
arm.
talking about the scratches, Ma. I'm talking about Kurt's relationship with Dylan. If it's gone back to the age of 17, that is an offence under the law. So he can be charged with that offence. So
I asked the parents, and I asked the father directly, who has the ability to do it. He has
Correct.
the knowledge of these people. And I said, go up to him, and his exact words to me is, I want him to think he's my friend. Guys, you're forgetting a very important thing. I've talked to all these assholes. I talked to Kurt. I had a 15, 20-minute conversation with Kurt. And then after that, his family started calling me. I got a call from a woman. Go ahead.
Did you ask Kurt if he wears pantyhose and high heels?
You know what's real interesting about the conversation with Kurt, and I did try to share this with the family, and you got to understand, sometimes it would only be the aunt and the grandparents, and then it would be just the dad for a while, and then the mom and the aunt disappeared and whatever the fuck. And what was interesting is I heard something about Kurt, and I've never really brought this up before, that he would snap. He had a crescendo to him. Real even, boom, and he would explode on women or men. He would pop on people. Okay, and it didn't matter who. I got him to pop on me on the phone, and I'm going to tell you what he said to me. I asked him, because I had already been armed with the information. A lot of times I ask questions I already know the answers to. And I said, tell me about these two women that came on to him at a truck stop. I've talked about this story before. Two women came on. By the way,
Kaz, can you show his picture, please?
Whose pictures?
Kurt's.
Yes,
Kurt.
Yep.
By the way, just to clarify some things here, to my knowledge, Dylan Rounds has absolutely no criminal history. He was a good student. He was a good kid. He never got in any trouble. He was young. He was 19. He was 18, 17. He had a dream and he went and he did it. He was an entrepreneur. He was a farmer. Listen, I run into cases every day where kids are running away from home because their parents took their cell phones. So there was a lot of good in this kid. I never heard anything bad about this kid. The fact that people are saying that he might have been having daddy issues or been dating a guy that was 59 years old or having sex with him or whatever the fuck the case may be, if you got a problem with that, that's your problem, right? If you think that's something bad, that's on you. I'm just telling you what the community has told me and what the conversation I had with Kurt, and we'll get to the conversation with Kurt. So that's your issue to deal with. And if you can't handle that, well, that's, that the facts don't have, the facts don't care about feelings, as I tell people. And I've heard that on television, and it's so true. But when you look at all these people, the only thing that they ever said about this kid, and even his parents had told me this, not so much his dad, is that he might have had a little bit of an entitlement issue. A little bit of he had a complex that he was better than a lot of people, or that he had a better truck than this guy, or was a better farmer. And he would talk down to people at times. I just didn't see enough in that kid's demeanor that would lead me to believe that somebody killed him in a bar fight or anything. I think this is a little deeper, and I think those two men are where you start. That is Kurt. That's Kurt. Not the greatest picture. Sorry, it wasn't anything but his butt.
That's cousin It.
There he is.
Yeah. I actually have a picture of Kurt when he was in grade school. Let me get it. You guys continue to talk, though, Jim.
Any other questions? Fire away.
Okay. Let me just.
Let me just stop you there, because now I'm pissed, and this is what I like about it. I'm pissed. The mom's threatening me. Okay, the family's threatening me on a text message, but they won't threaten the guy that I'm telling them might have had a sexual relationship with their son. They're not threatening the guy that has scratches on his fucking arms. They're threatening a private investigator that their family paid for because they thought the mom needed to be taken with a boulder of salt. The aunt told me, Mrs. Wells, anything that mother says, you take with a boulder of salt. I didn't even fucking talk to her for the first 3 days. You know, and then when she got on the phone with me, she told me what a fucking asshole her ex-husband was and how when she came into town, she was more worried about having to deal with him and broke out in fucking hives. Is that really him?
Yeah, that's him in school.
This is him in, I don't know what year.
The hell did you guys find that? Don't show any of me. That guy's got great hair.
I've already found your birth certificate, hon. Don't worry.
So you see it was in Mexico.
Oh, yeah, I saw. This is Kurt Wadsworth when he was in
junior high, wasn't it? This is all done through Ancestry, Jim.
Ancestry. I love Ancestry.
You'd be surprised what you can find in Ancestry.
Jim, have you spoken to anyone called Christy Ann Pendleton?
No. Not that I know. If I've spoken to her, I don't have all my notes in front of me. I might have. I'm not sure.
Jim, Liz made a comment, and I think it's very prudent. She said, Mr. Jim, I noticed many people attack the messenger. You did your job.
I wish I could have finished it. You know what's really interesting in this is technically I could still work on this because there's a $20,000 lottery ticket. I told the family, I gave them great advice that somebody gave me a long time. I says, put an end date on that $20,000 for that kid. Well, if it's a $20,000 open thing, what's the rush? Why rush? I told them to put that thing up till Friday at noon or Thursday at 5 o'clock, and then it's off the table. $20,000 in that town, guys. Gas almost $6 again. Nobody's gonna rat something out for that kind of money. I know there's people that know where this kid is. I just don't think it's a lot of people.
All right, I'd like you to address this question, Jim, if you wouldn't mind. This person is saying you would have interviewed these men yourself. Well, you did.
Yeah.
You did interview Kurt.
You did.
Yeah, exactly. So this particular person must have been listening to the beginning of the podcast. So for your information, Jim did interview these people. So you'd have to go back to the beginning of the show and have a look at it.
So let's see. Does anyone in side chat want to ask Jim a question before we wrap up, guys?
Quick, guys. I didn't finish this point. I kind of went off and on, and that's my fault.
Finish it.
I got a lot. When I talked to Kurt, I asked him about these two women that had come up to Dylan Rounds, these two what I call lot lizards, and hit on him. Okay, they hit on. He's a good-looking kid, looks like a baseball player, right? Yeah. And they were hitting on him at a truck stop, and they knew it was in his phone. And I guess the mother has since recovered stuff in the phone. That is what the lot lizard said was in it. When I brought up the women to Kurt to Dylan, he got real jealous like a woman. When I said these, he goes, fuck those women. He says, the reason that kid didn't have any women in his life is women cost you nothing but money. I says, well, why don't you have a woman in your life, Kurt? He says, women all they do is cause you problems. They cost you too much money, and that kid had known that. That kid knew that women only cost you money. He got pissed. I made him pop. And then I asked him if he was gay. And he didn't really come out and say no. And then when I asked him if Dylan was gay, his exact words were, if he were a faggot, I would never have talked to him. That was his words verbatim. And I thought that was an interesting response. When I told him that I talked to kids under the age of 16 that had seen him in drag, he didn't want to have that conversation. If you asked me if you came up to me and said, hey, Jim, I was at a Starbucks, hey, a couple of 13-year-olds said they saw you dancing around in a wig with makeup on, I wouldn't be like, who said that? I'd be like, I don't care who said that. It's not true. See, there's a way that people answer questions. And Kurt Wadsworth's conversation to me, although very monotone and smarter than you think, it was easy to make him pop. And I did that. So there was some in his voice.
So who were the people that told you that he was like, I guess some workers would bring food to his trailer and he would answer it like in full drag or
It
something?
was the woman that owned the property that is the saddle sore. She said she sent a couple of kids over to his trailer or his RV, and they banged on the door because they were going to feed him or something. I don't know the exact story. I relayed it to the family at the time, and they went over there, and he was in there with a fucking wig on and doing some goofy shit. They said Bruce Jennering it was their exact words. I kind of figured I knew what I says, oh, so he was a real good track athlete. And they laughed and said, no, everybody knows he's been an old homosexual for years. He just doesn't want to bury his 8 children. His ex-wife has said it. Some of his kids have said it. The entire community has said it to me that I've spoken to. And you know what? People are always saying, well, prove that Kurt's gay. I'll tell you, prove that Dylan's gay. Right? We get that all the time. It's in your chat room. It's been on the other shows. I'll tell you what. Prove to me that they're not. Prove to me that Dylan Rounds has never had any interaction sexually with a man or never had that. You prove it to me. I don't have to prove shit to you. I was the one that was hired.
Yeah. Mum must be having some technical difficulties up in the mountains there. That's what you get when you go off grid. Sandy,
you know who I feel sorry for, Kaz? You know who I really feel bad for? I feel bad for Dylan Rounds' grandfather. This is a guy who tried to do a good thing for this kid, and it fucking backfired. And God bless that man. My heart, I spoke with him a couple of times. He sounded, and his wife, and even their daughter and their son sounded like incredibly. The son is a hothead. I get that. But that's his son. I understood him. I was warned about them. The grandparents, my God, my heart breaks for them because they're going to live with what they think. And I told them several times, I said, this is not your fault. I says, the fact that we're looking into what we're looking into and got to cross it off the list is kind of what we need to do. And maybe that'll help you sleep better at night. If this kid was into a lifestyle that got him into this, then it's not your fault. He would have found something like this no matter what farm he was at. I really felt bad for the grandfather because he seemed like an incredibly good man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame that Dylan or even his grandfather chose that particular message backstage. You're not actually, sweetheart, you know where that particular land in the barren, it really is barren, where he tried, and it took him over 2 years to get the land plentiful enough to be able to plant the seeds to be able to grow the crop that he was growing. So that's a real shame. All right, I'm going to ask anybody in chat, and she is again. All right, let's see if I can get her back up. Are you there, Ma?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. Is there anybody in chat that would like to ask a civilized question or a question of who? Okay, name. Oh God, there's some people who.
Go ahead, I'll take them. Fire them away.
Oh no, they're just saying. Alex T had a question. Okay, let me just scroll up. Alex T, where are you? Because it only keeps for a certain length of time and then it drops off. So.
I had people.
Okay, here we go.
I have people in that community that have very good jobs and that are very big families. They own acreage, they own farms that are willing to talk to the press. I try to call the family and tell them about this. This isn't just me that's going to say this. I got a laundry list of people. Now, you can discredit them all you want, but why would they all? Some of these people don't even know each other and they've got the same story. But go ahead.
Okay. Alexis T asked, can you hold the family liable for slander after doing your job? They did lose their shit for not liking what you found out and seem to think you're going after, and sorry, I misread that, and seem to think they're going after your career. They seem to be going after your career by slandering you.
Let me explain something to you. I have had a very, very good life. I've been able to do exactly what I wanted to do my entire career. I've never had a job I disliked. I got to play football at a very high level for over 2 decades. I still played this year. I had a game in the Arena Football Leagues against a team in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. I'm getting older. I don't have to work another day of my life. I'm very, very blessed. I've got great family members. My parents have done well. My brother's a producer in Los Angeles. He makes major motion pictures. My sister's a veterinarian. I cannot do another thing at the age of 45 and never have to work again. This isn't for the dollar. Believe me, what the family paid me is not going to keep me going for the next 10 years, okay? It is what it is. This is their opinion, like I have my opinion, and I have no reason to go after anybody. Slander and libel is very hard to prove. You know, if you watch the Johnny trial, you have to show a loss of income in order to do that. So if I had a big case right now and somebody was going to give me $50,000 and these people went off the chain, but from what I understand, the mother already has a laundry list of people she has liens that have liens against her. It doesn't seem like they pay anyways. So no, I don't give a shit about what they say. These are people that lost their son and they're focusing on a private investigator that the grandparents.
I agree.
They have their own fish to fry. They're never going to ruin my career. Trust me. I got 15 cases lined up behind me right now in Mississippi, Wyoming, and South Dakota. I never need to look at this again. It's only because I felt the need. Because here's what's going to happen. Okay. Here's what I love about missing persons case. It's a pass-fail business. There's no in between. Sooner or later, could be 5 weeks from now, 5 months from now, 50 years from now, the truth about this is going to come out.
Oh, of course. Truth always does.
I'll either be dead wrong or dead right. And let me tell you something. One of the reasons I'm getting it all out here is if I'm dead right in what I'm saying, guess who owes me $20,000?
Well,
see where I'm coming from?
That's a valid point. That's
a
valid point.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it is and should be, to try and find Dylan, whether he's still with us or not. He needs to be found. And we need to find him sooner rather than later. We don't want the situation where that poor 41-year-old or 40-year-old gentleman was found as a consequence of looking for Dylan in the desert. We don't want that to occur. So
did they ever even what is that man's name that they found in the desert? Yes, I'm outside, guys, with a generator.
I guess from what I understood from several people, and I might have to plug my computer in here in about 3 minutes, guys. You might have to give me a break, and I won't keep you much longer. But I think his wallet was found in his pants or something.
Yes.
Yeah, so they know who he is. Listen, if it's not a case I'm working on, it doesn't concern me. Once the family knew that it wasn't him, it wasn't a big issue. I will compliment the family on this. No matter what, and this is where they really fucked up, there's no such thing as bad press on a missing persons case. The fact that this is still being talked about, I've got 5 interviews lined up tomorrow if I want. I had one lady that wanted me to come on at 10 o'clock tonight, and I respect her a tremendous amount. There's some really good web sleuths out there. There's some garbage, you know what I mean? But I don't have a problem taking on anybody when it comes to this, because you know what it still does? It keeps people talking about this. I still get 2 to 3 calls an hour about this kid because people don't want to talk to the police. And the amount of phone calls that I've gotten saying you're right on, keep doing what you're doing, before the family didn't want to work with me anymore, is more than I've received in any other cases, even in cases where I knew I was right. So it's interesting as to where the venom is. And it's towards me. And you know what? If that makes them feel better, if I'm now the boogeyman. But I can tell you one thing. I didn't put that kid out there. And I sure as shit didn't have anything to do with his disappearance.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Boot up your computer. I'm curious.
I'll let you guys talk amongst yourselves during the mission.
All right. Okay.
And then maybe if people have questions they want to ask, I just want the truth. I want to know what happened to Dylan.
Well, that's 100% right, Mara. I mean, we absolutely.
And I want to know what happened to the Clune boy.
Yeah, well, Rael Thomas, you asked, Dylan is missing from Montello, Nevada, or Lucin, Utah. Okay, I'll clarify that for you. Dylan was last seen physically sighted in Montello, Nevada. However, his cell phone pinged in a 15.4 mile radius. And it actually pinged near his farm, which is near Lucin, Utah. He last spoke to his grandmother in the after at 3:41 p.m., saying that he had to get his grain seeder into the shed because there was rains coming, and he didn't want the seed to get wet because it will germinate. So that was the last time he was spoken to. So that's why the Nevada, Utah scenario keeps coming into the conversation. Okay, next question we have here.
Another thing too, Kaz, is that we thought that Dylan went to Montello once that weekend, but he actually went to Montello twice that weekend.
Well, he goes there more than once or twice, as we now know. He goes there quite often. It's not just on the odd occasion. He's there quite a lot. Okay. Asked Jim about the report he was being held and beaten. Thoughts? Okay, I will hold that. I'll just jot that one down. Okay.
Well, Kurt told Dylan's mom that he was being held against his will in 2 different places in Montello.
Yes.
That is what Kurt supposedly said.
Hey guys, real quick, thank you for doing that. I had to charge this. Let me tell you this. I have received some text messages because I wasn't looking at my phone. I didn't want to be rude. I have received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have got probably 18 text messages, and the only negative one is from the family. Keep going. We're with you. The family knows more. You're exposing a lot of negativity in this area. Everything from the police are corrupt to all these things. I don't look for any adulation. I'm not looking for anything other than what I just wanted people to look into. This is very simple. You know, it's not hey, listen, as a football player, played in college and in the pros, I've been cut from a lot of teams. I've been fired from a lot of jobs. That doesn't bother me. I don't have an ego about it. What I don't like is the way that it was done. The family ghosted me for a couple of days. The mother, who was never really part of this and hasn't found squat, seemed to take the lead based on when the family that hired me told me that she was not worth, listening to, and to take it with a boulder full of salt. So the way that they did it is what irritated me. They should have called me. They should have got me on the phone and said, hey, listen, enough's enough. There's some things here we don't want to deal with. You're uncovering some things that might not be true. I think we're going to go in a different direction. They didn't do that. They decided to go on media outlets and talk to people. By the way, 2 of the news stations in that area want me on tomorrow. One of them wants me on live. I don't know that I'll do that. I don't know how many more of these I will do, but because I liked what you guys were about, I figured I'd come on here. I really did.
I'm sorry, but this needs to be exposed. Like, I don't understand if this man has scratches on his arm and he was around Dylan or his brother, why the police did not go and take pictures and question him. It's just mind-blowing.
I mean, it's a missing persons case. All of a sudden, this guy turns up with marks on one arm. I mean, if you fall off a quad bike or a 3-wheeler, you're going to not only graze your arm, you're going to graze your leg, and it would be a graze, not scratches.
Nail marks, not
or
scratches.
Nail marks.
Nail
okay,
marks.
Sorry, Jim. Nail marks. You're not going to have nail marks. You're going to have like what we call bitumen marks or rock marks in your arm. They're totally different to nail marks on your arm. They're distinguishable. You can distinguish between the two. So if somebody checked them out, you'll be able to see it. I just wanted to answer this question that we got asked. Do the parents live in Idaho or near Dylan's farm? They live in Idaho Falls. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when they're saying the family, I mean, you got to talk about who I'm dealing with. But yeah,
the grandparents.
Yeah, they don't live on his property.
No, they don't live. The farm is only it's only actually lived on, if you could say lived on, when they're actually doing the farming. So it is, say, a month before the seeding, where they get the land ready to seed, and then while the crops are growing, and then harvesting, and then they back up to where they're going to be living for the rest of the year. Well, very, very few people actually live there the whole period of time. So let's see if anybody else has got any more questions.
After Jim talks about what he wanted to on his PC, and I get my computer right here rebooted, which it's almost there, I'll show the map again of Dylan's farm and where he parked his grain truck.
Okay. My little pooch needs to go out again, so I'll just go off
And
screen
you know
for a
what,
little
guys?
while.
There was nothing missing that I'm aware of. I don't think the kid was robbed. His truck is there. His vehicles are there. The only things that's missing were his phone, his wallet, and his person, right? So it's not like there was a large stack of cash, unless I'm not aware of it. And listen, I don't know everything. Maybe there's some other stuff out there. But I'll tell you what I did offer, and I will offer this to anyone. If I feel that there's a fair moderator, if I feel that there's a fair show, I'll go on this station with any police officer, any person that's involved with the family, any individual that thinks that what I'm saying is not true, and I can back it up with facts and people that I know and people that I've interviewed with. All I got to do is give their names. I mean, it's that simple. I can back this up 100% of what I've said. And I really haven't given you a theory. Nobody's asked me what I think happened to this kid. Nobody's asked, and I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. I give you a percentage of what I thought based on the days. But if any of the family would like to go one-on-one with me at any time, they're more than welcome to. I have no problem answering questions.
Jim, I've heard you even say that maybe they were out doing their little militia pulling people over and he was accidentally shot.
A guy called me who was an alpaca farmer, and that was his theory as to why the truck, which is the one thing the mom did find out, that truck was power washed. God bless her for that. It's the one nugget. There were some people that said he was out there with them. They were doing this militia, and I'm using the wrong word, not militia, because they were basically vigilantes. And they were out there protecting property from people that were doing thefts, guys like Chase, right? Guys like from the beginning. And the guy told me that he believed that there was an accidental discharge of a firearm that might have winged that kid. And I told the family.
Very interesting.
Anyways, it doesn't end up.
But if that was the case, I don't think that this guy would have scratch marks like that. Like those claw marks came from somebody.
I'll tell you what, the family is I mean, why don't the family put it out there? Debunk me. It would be, I'm bringing up 2 points. It would be very easy to cross me off the list, guys, and say he's a jackass. You can talk about any other case I've worked. You can talk about my background. Is he licensed in Florida? Isn't he licensed in Florida? You can't get out of this. Check Kurt's phone and take pictures of that guy's arm. You can debunk. Why won't they do that? Why won't they do that?
I don't know, but can't the mother go now and dump the text messages from her son's phone with their messages?
Well, you know what? And from what I understand today, based on another lady that does a show that I think is very good, she has already done that. And I guess she's pounding her chest that there might not be anything in that phone. I'm not interested in what's in Dylan Rounds' cell phone. I'm interested in what's in Kurt's phone. Let's say somebody else fucked with this kid. Want to put that guy's picture up again? Or maybe this guy named Sean, who supposedly was his boyfriend. Why don't we put those guys up there? Maybe he committed.
Wait, who is Sean? I have never heard the name
There's a man
Sean.
that I got several calls about today named Sean. They told me his name was spelled S-H-O-N, because I asked people around the community, I says, find me one other person out there that might have had some sort of a relationship, a homosexual relationship with Kurt Wadsworth. And the name that kept coming up was Sean. I don't know who that is. There's another radio show that I believe knows his first and last name. Like I said, guys, my involvement in digging into this ceased at maybe around 9 o'clock this morning. And then the family put out their presser, actually, while I was talking to a Fox affiliate, which was kind of interesting because the lady read it to me while I was on. And she even said, the lady, I can't think of her name, good looking girl, had red hair. She did one of the main newscasts, was on the phone with me today. And we were bullshitting about some things. She knew about the vigilante group. She told me about it. She had heard about the homosexuality, although they couldn't going to go forward with it. They knew about the LDS angle, and she had some questions with me. And she said, me and my camera operator got the fuck out of there as fast as we could. We had to be out of that town by the time the sun went down. She goes, I didn't even feel safe in that town when it was light outside. And this is the reporter. She also felt that the mother was extremely abrasive. I've gotten that from a lot of people, but I made excuses for her. Son's missing. You know, sometimes people like the attention, guys.
Absolutely. I mean, so it just, I mean, as many people are there in that small town, and then this happens to come up, like, I don't really believe in coincidence, and I definitely think that if that is the case, then they have something to do with Dylan's disappearance.
Well,
And maybe Aiden.
What do you think happened? Why don't you tell me based, forget me, I'm a loser. I don't know shit, right? Why don't you guys tell me what you think happened?
I'm going to jump back into studio from my computer. Kaz can tell you, and then I'll tell you.
Pictures were taken by Elko County of Troy's arm. Fantastic. When I was talking to the family, nobody had taken a picture of anything. By the way, this would be how many days later?
Hang on, guys.
Take your phone off.
I got it.
And I think they ought to release those pictures. And I think they ought to look at both phones. That'd be even better.
True crime and terror. Can you let us know how you got that information, please?
What information?
Got it on. She said pictures were taken by Elko County of Troy's arm.
That's the woman that has the show that knows a lot. That woman is, let me tell you something about this lady. This is the lady that wanted me to come on at 10 o'clock tonight, and I reached out to her. She's very passionate, and I believe she cares. The problem with her and with her sources and stuff is
Jamie.
People that will hide behind the shadows. So she has people taking pot shots at me that won't get on camera, that won't talk in public, and because they have day jobs or they don't want to upset the family. So basically what's happening is that woman is being fed things by sources in the community that want to stay anonymous. Well, that's great. But unfortunately, I don't deal with anonymous people. I don't deal with people that hide behind other people. I can't take a lady's word in Delaware based on conversations she's having with people in Idaho that have never even called me. I haven't had one person call me, not one person call me and say that what I was saying was wrong. Now they'll do it on social media behind fake names, you know, Stacy's advocacy group or, you know, Search Mom 21, but I've never had anybody do that. So basically what she's saying is her sources are saying that this isn't true. Who are your sources? Can't tell you. Why not? They don't want you to know who they are, but you're wrong. Well, I'm going to go with the guy who's willing to put his face, his name, and his business with the account. Sooner or later, we'll know, and whether they're right or wrong, we'll never know who they are. Like I said, one-on-one with anybody that wants to come on this show and talk with me about it, or any show out there that I believe will be fair, and we'll get to the bottom of it. I have no problem doing that.
I mean, people can't, you know, be mad at you because you're blunt, but it's not like you're sitting here pulling these facts out of a magic hat. Like, this is going on. It's not one person. It's a lot of people telling you this.
Can you imagine if I was a registered sex offender, how pissed they'd be?
Oh, heck.
Probably not as pissed.
Shoot.
Okay, we've got another comment. Oh, I missed it. Hang on a sec. Let me just go up. Here we go. From the shack lady. She said she's pulled call records and text records with getting a SIM card. Same can be done with Dylan's.
Another thing Kaz and I were talking about is, hey, Gen B, I wonder if they dumped the cell phone towers that weekend, because, I mean, how many people could possibly be on the cell phone towers?
I don't know. I know that the first thing I told the family to do was to FaceTime him. And maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. His phone went right to voicemail, but his FaceTime rang 11 times. That tells me that phone might have been connected to it. And the mother shit all over that. She shit all. It was the first thing I told the family for free. They says, we're calling him and it's going right to voicemail. This is before I was hired. And the parents had already hung up on me when I called them for free advice. The first thing I do is I don't call somebody's cell phone. I FaceTime it. A lot of teenagers, because I didn't know what this kid's backstory was. He could have left in purpose. He might have left because he wanted to. What people will do is they'll turn their phone off and they'll use Wi-Fi or use a burner phone on Wi-Fi, and you can't ping it or trace it. So if the FaceTime, that's how I catch a lot of teens. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. It's pulling the curtain back. I catch a lot of teens because I'm able to track their phones because they leave the Wi-Fi on. They're sitting in a fucking Panera Bread texting their boyfriend, and I'm able to FaceTime them. And sometimes they pick up. I've had cases solved that way where Stephanie hit the button and I FaceTimed her from a Florida number, and the phone was on. Dylan Rounds' phone number was ringing on FaceTime 11 times the first week I was involved in this.
Hey, Brookie, thank you. Welcome to the family.
Wow, that is
crazy.
I didn't even know. That's something good to know.
So you're saying
turn my Wi-Fi off.
Like maybe that his phone was off, but maybe the FaceTime account, let's just say, was on at Troy's house or Kurt's house. Or
I don't know. I shut my phone off right now. You can't FaceTime me or call me. I don't know, but I brought it up. I think that's pretty. Hey, listen, that's pretty credible. You know, it seems like anything I brought up, and I was the guy paid to do it, was bullshit. No. I want you to look and see what these two other missing kids are. Go fuck yourself.
But can't you? I mean, I know on Google you can log in and you can actually see where you were, exactly where you were logged into. Can Facebook? Can you even go and check where you logged in from on Facebook? I know Google will show you everywhere you've logged in. That would be interesting to look at his Google account because it will show everywhere where he logged in.
Yeah, because I check mine all the time to make sure nobody's trying to log in on my account.
The lady that's the nurse, the lady that's had the three women in the chat. She said that this is the woman that contacted me that dealt with the three women, the two women and the girl that were abducted or that were held against their will, however you want to say it. She has just texted me that she has the paperwork that say who those women are and what happened to them. I don't know if she copied them or what. She said she was going to send them to me, but now she doesn't want to be involved. She has them if I want to turn that over to the police. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Like I said, my phone's on 24/7.
Wow.
It seems to me like they're afraid of these brothers. Like even after what Troy did, like did he go to jail? Like why is he even walking the streets?
Well, he shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Shouldn't be.
You got to have the people.
Especially with an outstanding warrant.
These people, well, and listen, guys, I deal with people with outstanding warrants all day long. They're not extraditing people for bad shit. If you've got a warrant, I'm going to give you an example. I had a kid out of West Virginia, and he had been dating a guy. He was a gay kid. He was 17 years old. He'd been dating a 26-year-old guy, and I found them in Pennsylvania, I think it was, right on the border. And I found him at a McDonald's. And I called the cops. The cops came. The kid was 26 years old. The underage boy that went missing, who I found, was 17. This is about 10 months ago. And the 26-year-old man that was with the 17-year-old who had been driving him around had warrants for cocaine trafficking in Cincinnati. And we were either in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, I forget. And they put him in cuffs, put him in the back of the car and released him, took the kid home. With COVID, with police being scaled down, I don't care what side you're on, the left or the right. People seem to think I'm a Republican, or that I'm dead right or dead left. I'm dead in the middle. I don't like Republicans or Democrats, right? I think they're both the problem. And then you're right. So this is not a political issue. But what I'm telling you is when police are defunded, when you have cops that are paid, let me explain something to you. As if it wouldn't be bad enough to, at least Dylan Rounds was living his dream, right? He had a farm, 17 years old, he's got all those acres. I know 17-year-olds don't even own a fucking car. This kid had all that in his dreams, right?
Yeah.
He's doing all this stuff. There's just a whole lot of people out there, based on the stuff that I've looked into that, see a kid like this and they put a target on his back. Now, I don't know that that's what happened there, but this kid was pretty high profile in that community. He really, really was. There was a lot of people that had eyes on him, and a lot of people had a lot of good things to say. I just think that he got involved with the wrong people, and I think that those people know exactly what happened to him. You know what I mean? But a missing persons case is not a crime. The mother got on the news stations. Why aren't the cops doing this? And why aren't they doing that? Because when you defund them, listen, if you're out there and you own a farm, God bless you. What do you think a cop makes in Elko County? Would you move to Elko County as a cop? What do you think? What are they making? $31,000 a year, $40,000 a year to get shot at, to deal with meth heads and shit like this? And you got murders and rapes going on. And then this family comes to you and says, our 19-year-old son is missing. With all due respect, to this minute that I've seen when I was working on it, there was no crime. I told the family, the cops are going above and beyond. They might not be very good, but you're not in Los Angeles. You're not in Miami or New York. A missing persons case is not a crime. It's a missing persons case. But if there's 200 cases on their desk, it's 198. Now, if the kid's 5 years old, a 5-year-old isn't going to move to Kansas City, right? On their own, chances are. But when you got a 19-year-old kid, he's already living on his own. Sometimes, and I've worked these cases, you find them living in Miami. It's possible they find this kid living in Dallas 2 years from now. I don't know why that, he would do what he did. It don't look good, but it doesn't mean that it's a crime. So the cops doing what they've done, they've gone above and beyond. Now, we know there's probably something a little bit more nefarious here, but a missing person is not a crime. You two ladies could disappear right now, and I'm sure that chihuahua with no legs and that cat and that bulldog that was pissed on your carpet would all miss you.
She has legs, but she's so spoiled that she pretends like they don't work.
Well, I do the same thing. So I'm telling you that you guys could go missing, and we would all be
find you, Jim.
Listen, you would probably be too good at hiding for me to find you. But I could tell you this: you two could go missing right now, get up and move to another country or another state, and it's not a crime. It happens all the time.
So let me tell you what I thought happened to Dylan in the beginning when I first heard this story. I honestly thought, because the first story out was that Don used to be partners with Dylan's grandfather, Larry. And then when Dylan got the share of the farm, he became the boss. And then when he fired Don, I thought maybe he was just mad. The other rumor for a while was that Chase was Don's son. So there was so much conflicting crap. But then when you came out and said what you said, and Kaz and I are big time diggers, like we dig. And then we started looking at the people, and I thought, I'm sorry. I mean, you can't make this up. It's not like you pulled this out of a magic hat. You went and looking, and this is what people came and told you. And who else is out there? Ivo at the airport, or the Tanner farms that surround his property? I mean, there's nobody out there but maybe, 16 people? Like Heavy D said, meth heads are farmers.
Exactly.
I have a feeling that, let me just ask you this. I'm starting to feel that he might not even be on the Utah side anymore. Maybe him and Aiden are, it's such a coincidence that two 19-year-old boys that look so much alike were missing like a month apart in the same area. And then you've got, it's I don't know if
like
I believe in
the police. There's a lot. I don't know that they're connected, but there's a shitload of similarities. The age, the look, the size. They both were from out of state, even though one was, from California. And I don't want to dive into the Aiden thing too much. The mother had some sort of a breakdown or something. And
yes, she did.
They're another person that paid me and just disappeared. And that's fine. Guys, I'll take my lumps. I'll be here. Like I said, I'll be here next week and the week after. I've got a very strong base in what I do. There's always work for me. And like I said, if I stopped being a private investigator tomorrow, I've got a good life and a lot of things to be really, really thankful for, and that's a good place to be in.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any more questions for Jim?
No, we've covered pretty much all of it.
I think you should stick to the case, Jim. and find
Yeah,
out
I
what
do
happened
too.
to
But
Dylan.
Jim, just for your info, I do have a bit of info on Aiden that might help you. When Aiden left Highway 93 at Marco, my mouth's not working, at Marco 23, he crossed over the Palomino Ridge and travelled southwest into the Cherry Creek Summit Mountain Peak. And that's where they lost his tracks. So he was well and truly into the mountain range when they
So
lost
there was
his tracks.
there was a DOT worker that saw him.
Go ahead, Red Rock. Ask again.
I talked to the DOT worker's wife. The DOT guy would not call me back. What's interesting is the mother called me, and she is convinced he's dead in the desert, and he may be. But they found his guitar. They found one shoe on and one shoe off as he was walking. They found socks and all that, and then he disappears. Hey, listen, but what the DOT worker's wife told me is that you can see the highway from miles and miles and miles away.
Yes,
it's not like you get lost. It's not like Washington State.
No.
So, that was where I was with this. And what else is interesting, too, is Aiden was staying with the father who's estranged from him, who was in Vegas. He was staying with the father's parents. They had bought him an RV to stay in. Listen, I can't make this shit up. And I wasn't going to get into this, but I will. They bought him an RV to stay in. The kid was going a little bit fucked up. He was on medication. The mom had no idea that he had any sort of an ailment going on. She found out through the grandparents. This kid went to the side of the road, and the DOT worker saw this kid walking back and forth to his car. I said, why didn't you stop and ask him what was going on or call the cops? He said, people stop to take a piss there all the time. I said, what, a fucking guitar? But then he started pushing on these people, and the mother basically said, the police have told me he's expired in the woods. They're going to find him. There's a ton of people they're looking for out there. And by the way, look at that desert. You can see for miles and miles and miles.
Oh, you can.
Let me tell you what a couple of people told me about, because I said, well, if they put him down a mine shaft, Dylan Rounds or Aiden, how would you find him? He goes, that's the easiest way. I says, explain that to me. He says, if you have a mine shaft or a well or a hole in the desert that's open, that stays open, a cave, coyotes and other animals will hang out and will have footprints around the hole. The coyotes and these animals will not, and these buzzards and things will not go near this hole if there's no food in there. With all due respect, if there's a dead body down there, they're feeding on it. We had this with Lori Cockrell, a case we finished in Tupelo. You're going to see the animals hanging out around that fucking hole. When you can see the desert for miles and miles and miles, the shoes are interesting. The boots are interesting to me. But there's not enough on the boots to be a crime. There's a drop of blood. I got a fucking pair of boots right here. I probably got blood on them. I don't even know if it's mine. But who knows? I hope the family gets a conclusion. I hope this kid is alive.
Is that what it was, Jim? Just a drop of blood on the boots?
From what I'm hearing, it was not a lot of blood. For example, there was a case I worked with a famous professional wrestler named Jake the Snake Roberts. His sister went missing in 1979. It was one of the first cases I worked, got me on HBO and all these other television shows, and I was credited with this. And there was a lot of blood, supposedly, that was found in the trunk of the car when his sister was kidnapped by her then husband's ex-wife. If I go to the trunk of a car and there's a drop of blood, i.e. Casey Anthony or any of these other cases, it doesn't make it a crime scene. But if I find fucking tons of blood in the trunk of a car to the degree where if you're a cop, you don't think a person could have walked away from that, or it's more than just I cut myself shaving or nicked myself on the hood of the car, then it becomes a crime. There's cases where they've gone in the bed of the house has blood just soaked the sheets. Okay, there's a fucking crime here. Somebody didn't cut their legs shaving, right? From what I understand. And then the mother would call me, and this is Jim, I need you to get this to the crime lab. And I need you to find out whose blood this is on it. First of all, this isn't fucking television, honey. I don't have a crime lab. Okay, I'm not fucking Bruce Wayne. All right, I don't have a crime lab in the barn. It doesn't work that way. I call the crime lab. First of all, it's thousands of dollars at sometimes to do these things, fingerprint this, do that. Hopefully it hasn't been contaminated. And then you might spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get these shipped somewhere, weeks, if not months later. hold on, we got a couple of rapes and murders, but we'll look at Dylan Rounds' shoes to find out it's fucking hot sauce from the bar, the saddle sore he was at when he was eating wings on Monday night. It's not that simple, guys.
Saddle sore. It's just.
Yeah. A bar named after a sore on a fucking cowboy's ass, and that's not gay. Let me leave you with this, guys. You know,
Jim, Red Rock has a question for you. So let me get Red Rock. Is this the question?
I'll put it on the screen, Ma.
Recording of these interviews with the folks of Montpelier?
No, they may Montello. Yeah.
What's the question?
Well,
did you record any of your conversations with Kurt and all of them?
I did not record my conversations with Kurt. I didn't think I'd have to prove myself to the family. I just assumed that, you know, and I don't make it a habit of that. I don't have to. My integrity and my background this way has never been questioned. You know, I mean, I've had some people that didn't like where I went with a case. I had a real famous case with a kid in Mississippi named Jonathan Estes, who was a swinger. Him and his wife were having sex with tons of different people, and his father was a preacher. He called me and said, "That's it." And I says, "But I know what happened. I can take you through this." And they didn't like that. This kind of mirrors that a little bit. Sometimes people think, well, if he's dead, why have this loudmouth PI shit all over his legacy or his background, you know?
I mean, I feel that the parents are probably like, oh, wow, you know, it's hard to deal with it being in the public eye now, but there's not too many more options, I'm afraid to say, out in that area to what happened to Dylan.
I think the parents need to come out and not say that I'm into conspiracy theories, because they never listed what those conspiracy theories was. I've never given a theory. In 7 years of being a private investigator, I don't have a theory. I have facts. And I have questions I need answered. And if you won't let me answer those and you want me to go on to 5 other people, this is what this is like. Here's what I want you guys to do. The next time you go to a dentist or you hire a fucking plumber to come to your house, when the dentist is opening up your mouth, start telling him how to do the surgery. See what he fucking tells you. It's no different than a private investigator. It's no different than a plumber. The next time a plumber comes to your house because the toilet's backed up, tell him to go downstairs and start fixing the water tank and see what he tells you. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, people see that. And they've never, and people see that. And they think, they see private investigators on TV or whatever. Yeah, Sleuth Mom. By the way, I'm still waiting for an answer from Sleuth Mom. She's the only person I asked a question to. Sleuth Mom, why don't you go one-on-one with me? I'll release the text messages I have. See, Sleuth Mom didn't have the guts to call me with that, which I thought was interesting. No, I've never given a theory. I don't know if he's dead in the woods. I don't know if he was kidnapped. I don't know if space aliens took him. All I know is I've got a hell of a lot of people telling me about 2 guys that I'd like to fucking cross off the list and why they're telling me about those 2 guys, and nobody would let me do that. And one of the guys has nail marks on his arms. What does that mean? I don't know. I've only given you a percentage of Dylan that I think of what happened to Dylan. I don't have a theory as to what happened to him. I don't. I've never said that he's dead or that he's alive or that he was taken or that he walked off. I don't know. I can't hear you guys.
Oh, no, Ma's just talking to her mum. Chris Ruff, he said,
but there's not too many options. I mean, either he got into an accident without his boots on and he fell in a ditch and he was covered in dirt. Don did something because he fired him. Or then you've got these 2 characters in Montello where he was 2 nights in a row that weekend, that, if it's true what everyone's saying, are definitely some strange beings. More than strange.
You were getting ready to ask me a question. What was that?
Yeah, one of Chris Raffer, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Jim, you told the family in that recorded conversation that the cuts on Kurt's arm were from Dylan today. That's the theory.
First of all, let's see. This is what infuriates me. First of all, what's this guy's name?
I think it's Christ or
Can you put that back up? Can you put that back up, please?
Sure.
I want you to see what a moron that question is. Please put that question back up because I want to show you something.
Hang on, let me go back up again. Hang on. There you go. There you go.
It says, Jim, you said.
That's the militia one. It's put up 3. Hang on. It's one more. There we go.
Okay, Jim, you told the family today. First of all, I didn't speak with the family today. This is a guy who listened to a YouTube channel and thinks that conversation was today. That conversation was several days ago. So right off the bat, he's wrong. The cuts on Kurt's arm. What fucking interview has this moron been listening to? I never said Kurt had cuts on his arm. Troy had cuts on his arm. And that they were from Dylan, and that's a theory. The first 3 of 5 things this guy asks me, he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about. I don't have a theory as to where this boy is right now or what happened to him or how he got to wherever he is right now or whether he's alive and dead. I have a percentage. The fact that this guy has scratch marks on his arms that I believe, if they're nail marks, are probably made from the only person in town that we're looking for. So until we could cross that off the list, then yeah, I guess that's a theory, partner. But it wasn't Kurt's arms. I didn't talk to the family today. And see, that's the problem when people on YouTube channels go off half-cocked and hide behind names like Sleuth Mom and PI Lady and Connecticut Missing Advocate. They don't have the balls or the guts. My cell phone number, my business information, my face, my likeness. I've opened myself up to 100% of the people. And not one person has come on here and said that he wasn't gay or that Kurt's not gay. Have you seen one text message? Have you seen one? Not one. Not one. And that's where you start.
I don't think it's fair that the family is coming after you because you just happen to find out things that are actually going on around their son Dylan. I mean, the truth hurts, but that's not fair. If you're blunt, that's one thing, but to tell you that they're going to go after you because you're blunt, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
Guys, there's no doubt about it. I would not make it in corporate America. I could not work in a boardroom, but that's why I've always had careers that either involve a football field or being a PI. I've always been my own boss, and I have no idea what that tick is.
Hang on, I'd just like to address this. First of all, hang on, because if Jim had come on here and did what you're accusing him of, I would have had words with Jim myself. Because I don't take this off any man. I wouldn't take it off my husband. I wouldn't take it off anybody. So to accuse him of this, I won't stand for that. So
accuse me of what? What are you talking about?
Okay, this person.
The generator's going back out. If I go backstage, add me again.
All right, darling. This person always, Dusty says,
I'm camping
you
right
go
now
on every channel and insult everyone. Sealed evidence. Women are easily browbeat and manipulated by yourself. Well, I know for one, you can't
women are browbeat and manipulated by me.
Yeah. Oh, apparently so. Yes, you manipulate people, Jim. And excuse me. I will dispute that severely. I'm angry at that because you're virtually accusing me of being browbeat and manipulated by Jim, and I take offense at that myself because I don't get browbeat or manipulated by any man or woman. So piss off.
Is that, and that person has Marilyn Monroe as their thumbnail picture?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get angry about many things, but I'm pissed off about that, and I don't swear very often, but I'm pissed about that one.
Well, listen,
okay.
I do, and what people may not know is sometimes on these things. First of all, I don't go on every show. Okay.
Yes, I know you don't.
I've done what, 2 shows?
Yes,
of I think.
Yeah, you've done
and
this
you
one
guys,
and another one.
You guys called me, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so and my phone number is readily available. You know, like I said, we're up to almost 30 text messages, and the only negative one has come from the family, which I understand. Doesn't bother me. You know, I'm not browbeating anybody.
No.
Unfortunately, we live in a time now where people are on one side or the other. There's a lot of people that get triggered. There's a lot of people that are oversensitive. There's a lot of people that can't take somebody being assertive. There's a lot of people that don't like a white guy with confidence. There's a lot of people that don't like an athlete. There's a lot of people that don't like a private investigator. There's a lot of people that don't like the fact that I'm here talking, that I'm here defending whatever it is I'm defending, which I don't even know what I'm defending, but I'm at least here talking. There's a lot of people that can't do that, won't do that, and are scared to do that. But they have at least some sort of courage behind a keyboard. And like I said, it keeps this thing going, and it is what it is. I don't know how many more shows I'll do. That'll depend on the family's reaction. My advice for the family, and I'm going to let you guys go here real shortly, is to probably leave me alone at this point and let it go away. If the family lets me go away, I won't do another interview. If I see one Facebook post, if I get one phone call from anybody in that community, if I get any sort of a text message from that family threatening me again, I'll post all my text messages where the family's talking shit about each other. And then you know what? I'll release a little bit more information because I have a few more cards to play, but I don't want to have to do that.
No.
Let it go. Just let it go.
You shouldn't have to defend yourself. Yeah.
Go find your kid.
Well, Jim, thank you so very, very much for taking your time and coming up here tonight. And we really appreciate you doing that and answering all the questions.
Love talking to you, Jim.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Okay, how does a woman from where you're at in the United States and where you're at in
Queensland, Australia,
how'd you guys get together?
Okay, I can explain my half because, it'd be 2 years ago. I'd not long retired, and I wanted something to take up a bit of my time because idle hands, and I've always been interested in crime. And I started trolling the internet, and I started watching a few different YouTube channels, and I came across Mar's channel, and I started watching it, and I enjoyed what she was putting out there, and we became friends, and it all started from there. A girl from Brisbane, Australia, God, I wish, me from Brisbane, Australia, and Mar and I just became friends, and it just took off.
And it stuck from there, huh?
Yeah, she can't get rid of me. I keep saying, I'll go at any time. You just need to tell me to get out of there, girl. But
I appreciate you guys giving me the chance. Once again, my telephone number is area code 813-993-2242, 813-993-2242. And currently and I just took this case a few hours ago. If I could at least pub it here, and if people want to look into it, I just took a case out of Mississippi. There is a young man that went missing out of Mississippi, and his name is Robert Alexander Esterling, and he went missing from a porch in Mississippi. Went off a porch. He was dropped off at a drug dealer's house by his mom, of all people, and he was never seen again after that day several weeks ago. So I have recently today been retained to take that case, and I will be dealing with, in Pickens, Mississippi, Robert Alexander Esterling. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Like I said, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. And you guys call me anytime you need anything. God bless, and thank you for the opportunity.
Well, send some information to our email address, Jim, and we'll definitely, if you need any help looking into stuff, we'll be there for you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, guys.
I'll give you a call tomorrow, Jim.
Yes, ma'am. And tell your friend I am sorry for her loss. That little mouse, I thought it was a chihuahua at first. That little mouse passed away.
Or
the rat. Okay.
That's Aurora.
I'm from Florida, and anything we see like this because of Mickey, we just consider it as a mouse. But tell her I'm sorry for her loss. God bless.
See you, Jim. Bye.
Have a great night. All right. Well, that was an interesting live. Thank you, everyone, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you all for being in the 99%, being very respectful to our guests tonight. Thank you to all the mods. You're all awesome. Thank you to everybody in chat. You're fantastic.
Thank you, mods. All right, Kaz, I am on my phone. My generator went out again.
Yeah,
Can you
I
end
realize
the
that.
live? All right.
Yep.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Have a great night. Stay
Good night,
vigilant, guys,
everyone.
and keep your babies safe.
Bye.
Bye.